Chapter 441. The reversal of events was too sudden. He had always had the upper hand against Jiang Xiu, but now he suddenly knelt down before Jiang Xiu, begging like an incompetent loser. How could this be? Several big shots in the fishing platform looked at each other. Yi Zhongshu's eyes were even more confused and lost. He didn't know where to look. Everything was going well, and the matter was about to end. How could there be such a big reversal? Zhang Luoxia had actually turned the tables. What did this mean? It meant that he had withstood the greatest pressure of going against the world. Zhang Luoxia might make the whole world powerless. And the big boss had the support of Zhang Luoxia. Didn't that mean that he would be re-elected? Yi Zhongshu felt that some kind of power deep in his heart was collapsing, which made him feel desperate. The muscles on his face twitched, as if he had an epileptic seizure. It could only be said that the ups and downs of life were too fast and too exciting. In various countries around the world, countless people who watched this scene through satellites were also out of control. The leaders of Smith Barney, Apennine, the Rising Sun City, Galuya, and North Korea all stared with their eyes wide open. Their brains were buzzing. The world had really changed a lot. They had always thought that after closing their country, they would be very backward, just like the country more than 100 years ago. They would become weak, and easy to bully. They would be like a piece of cake that anyone could take a bite out of. But the reality had given them a hard slap in the face. The funny thing was that the people in the negotiation room were still arrogant and asking for sky-high prices. If Hua country dared to bargain, they would raise the price until they were afraid. What was even more ridiculous was that there was a meeting in Snow Country to divide the benefits obtained from Hua country. Now, they were also quarreling. The question was, would Hua country agree? Spare my life. Zhang Xiu's face was indifferent. His eyes swept across the vast sky, and his eyes were full of disdain. He didn't even look at Thunder God, who was kneeling in front of him. The moment you set foot in Hua country, did you think about the consequences of angering me, Zhang Luoxia? When you gathered the international community to put pressure on my country, did you ever think of asking me to spare your life? Don't be childish. You should know the fate of those who offend me, Zhang Luoxia. Not only will I kill you, but I will also exterminate your entire family, leaving no one alive. Thunder God's heart continued to sink. He felt an indescribable pain. It was as if he had eaten a handful of Chinese gold thread. His face became bitter, and his eyes were extremely complicated. Confusion, anger, despair, and annoyance. All of them turned into remorse, deep remorse. Ah! The saber came from the heavens, but no one knew where the saber began or where it ended. Sky Blade, the real Sky Blade. When the saber chi chopped down, it contained countless variations. When the boundless saber chi descended, the lightning in the sky was like a rotten fishing net. It broke inch by inch, and all the lightning was destroyed. The saber light seemed to be hurried, but it was because it was too far away. By the time it reached Thunder God's line of sight, it was just a flash. The power of this saber strike and the saber intent it contained had completely exceeded Thunder God's imagination. He had no idea how to deal with it, nor could he deal with it. Whoosh! Thunder God's body was cut from the middle. Countless powerful rays of light poured into his body crazily. The body of Heavenly Thunder was infinitely close to the body of Earth God. It was not easy to kill him. However, this saber strike was enough to destroy the entire Earth. Ah! Thunder God, who ranked first on the divine list, let out an unprecedented roar. His eyes shot out a bright white light, and his whole body tensed up in pain. His whole body had been cut in half by the light. At this moment, there was only a silver-white light left between heaven and earth. There seemed to be a dislocation in space. Ah! The mournful roar gradually softened. The light in the God of Thunder's eyes continued to fade. Finally, it turned into a pair of white-silver eyes. The lightning on his body also disappeared. His body was divided into two parts and fell from the sky. Dead, dead. Thunder God is dead. Everyone looked at this incredible scene. Boom! The saber light's momentum did not decrease, but when it chopped down on the roof, it passed through without causing any damage to the roof. There was a real dislocation in space until it disappeared into the ground, like a ray of light shining into the ground. How could this be? Many people were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Silverwing's mouth was wide open for a long time. He had just said that Zhang Luoxia would lose, and now he had been slapped in the face. He was really shocked by this saber strike. It was too powerful. The power was definitely not just limited to that of a superior god. Lost? Silverwing felt a chill run down his spine. He was here for the same reason as the Thunder God. Both of them were here to force the Hua nation to submit to the Thunder God. The Thunder God had made his move, while he had not. However, they were both here for the same reason. Now that the Thunder God had been killed, Silverwing's position had become very awkward. Who won? It was such a big movement. There was the moon, the lightning, and the saber light. However, there were only a few people who could see clearly from below. They did not understand the mystery behind it. They only cared about the outcome. There. The sun, which had risen to its peak, disappeared into thin air. The sky suddenly darkened, and the lightning disappeared. Under the gray sky, a man stood on the top of the Great Wall. Those with good eyesight could see that the man was emitting a dim light. His black hair was like a flame floating on top of his head, and his long robe was fluttering. It's Zhang Luoxia. Where is Thunder God? Zhang Luoxia won. The representatives of America Barney, Never Setting Sun, Apennine, and Galuya were all shocked. The remaining high-level officials of Re Nation looked gloomy, and their hearts were filled with grief. The Hua Nation's armament practitioners cheered. He won. Zhang Luoxia won. The Hua Nation's armament practitioners hugged each other excitedly. Yi Bing and Yi Mu were also cheering. It could be said that some people were happy, while others were sad. It was a sharp contrast to the gloomy atmosphere of the overseas representatives. However, there were still people who didn't believe it until Thunder God's body was found. They looked at the man standing on top of the Great Wall. His black hair was fluttering in the dark wind, as if he had been there since ancient times. Just like the Great Wall under his feet, he was ancient and powerful, grand and magnificent. Looking at him made one's blood boil and excited. Descending from the 9 mysteries to cleanse the heavens, 1,000 years of work. At this point, Zhang Luoxia was invincible in the world. If you hadn't forced me, I wouldn't have obtained the spirit stone of the nation in advance and become an earth god. You can be considered to have contributed greatly. The figure flew over the Great Wall. When he flew over Long Yingqing's head, she raised her snow-white neck and looked at the figure in the distance. She sighed from the bottom of her heart. Zhang Luoxia was still Zhang Luoxia after all. He had won. It seemed that her worries about him were always unnecessary. However, he had always been so powerful, which didn't mean that she would never be able to catch up to him. Instead, she would be further and further away from him. She suddenly missed her time in university. She wondered why she didn't spend more time with him back then. That way, she could have more memories. Thinking of university, she thought of another person. She took out her phone and called Cheng Lingran, who was far away in Jiangnan. Cheng Lingran didn't know the situation here. On the street, Long Yingqing's phone was extremely nervous. How is it? How are the minor repairs? Don't worry. The unlucky ones will always be his opponents. Long Yingqing's tone was filled with disappointment and helplessness, but one could feel her relaxed mood. Win, did you win? Cheng Lingran breathed a long sigh of relief. The joy in her eyes fell into Cheng Lingsu's eyes. The latter also breathed a sigh of relief. She turned around and walked to the bedside to look at the opposite river. She regretted the situation just now. She shouldn't have said that she regretted it. That would make her sister look down on her. Su, did you hear that? The minor repairs won. Cheng Lingsu said, I heard it. It's good that he won. However, no matter how glorious he is now, it has nothing to do with our Cheng family. It's just out of concern for an ordinary friend. Yes. Cheng Lingren's joyful eyes also dimmed. Su Su's words just happened to describe their current situation. He's fine, it's good. Let's go. After being delayed for so long, I'm hungry. Sister, you have to treat me to a meal. On the fishing platform, the big boss clenched his right hand, clenched it into a fist, and waved it vigorously. He won. The victory of this duel would win all the glory. And his opponent, Yi Central, was completely dumbfounded. The big boss said, "Inform the negotiation team." Chapter 442. The negotiation team was still in the meeting room. They had paused several times. Now that the negotiations had failed again, it was useless to be stubborn. The group of people went to the pantry. "What should we do, Mr. Lin?" This time, the main judge, Mr. Lin, took off his glasses. Although he was smart and capable, he felt tired and kept rubbing his eyes. A weak country has no diplomacy. The current situation is that the other party is clearly bullying you. Over the years, Hua country has developed too quickly, and they have suffered too much. This time, they will definitely seize the opportunity to kill you. But what can we do? Now, we are not just facing America, but the entire world. We are going against the entire world. Do you understand? How could the people present not understand? However, they had already come to this point. They had a heavy responsibility on their shoulders. What could they do? They tried their best to fight for it. However, the other party was too aggressive. They had no sincerity to negotiate at all. They wantonly humiliated them at the negotiating table and trampled on Hua country's dignity without any bottom line. Mr. Lin, what do you think? I don't have so much time to waste with you. I'll give you 5 more minutes to consider. If it doesn't work, we won't be here to argue with you anymore. You know the consequences. The white-haired foreigner outside walked in with a domineering look. Mr. Lin said angrily, "Consequences? What consequences? Mr. Andre, I think you have no sincerity to negotiate with us from the beginning." Sincerity? The white-haired foreigner said, "Are you qualified to mention this word? From the moment Jiang Luoxia picked up the butcher's knife, you are no longer qualified. You are butchers. Demons. You don't deserve to live in this world." "You?" the white-haired foreigner said, "I'll give you one last chance. Either sign the contract or wait for our anger." "What do you mean?" Mr. Lin's expression changed completely. He thought that these foreigners were taking the opportunity to humiliate them. However, the situation didn't seem like that. The other party didn't seem to want to negotiate at all. It seemed like they wanted to fight. "Are you still unwilling?" the white-haired foreigner asked mockingly. Mr. Lin noticed that the tip of his foot was already pointing out, ready to leave at any time. Mr. Lin's heart beat violently. He felt that something was wrong. His heart couldn't take it. Then, a sharp pain hit him. He covered his heart and said, "Sign, I'll sign." "Ha ha ha." The white-haired foreigner raised his head and laughed. The negotiators behind him also laughed. The Chinese in front of them was like a clown. They had played him for a long time, and in the end, he still had to give in. Sigh. Mr. Lin smacked his head with his hand. Times had changed. Mr. Lin thought that such a thing would never happen again, but he never thought that history would repeat itself. He held the pen and signed his name with trembling hands. With this draw, more than half of the land was gone. The surrounding people who had accompanied the negotiations all lowered their heads and sighed, like defeated generals. When he finished the last stroke, Mr. Lin felt like he was about to collapse. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper as he handed the contract over with trembling hands. Ha ha ha! Looking at the signed names and the generated contract, the white-haired foreigner laughed out loud. The negotiators from the other countries also laughed out loud. Laughter resounded in the conference room. It was extremely sarcastic. "It's done. I believe the conference in Snow Country is almost over." The negotiators stood up one by one and prepared to leave. With a bang, the 9-meter-tall conference room door was pushed open. The big boss's secretary appeared at the door. His face was serious, but his face was full of pride. His steps were steady and powerful, and his eyes were shining. "We don't have to sign the contract." The white-haired foreigner waved the contract in his hand and said, "You seem to be late. Your people have already signed the contract." The secretary was stunned. "They've signed it. Ha ha ha, it's written in black and white." He pointed at the surveillance camera above. "There's also a camera as proof." "You're too late." The representatives of the other countries around also laughed. They were very proud, especially the representative of Japan. His eyes were extremely arrogant. This was the price for everything that Zhang Luoxia had done in Japan. Mr. Lin's face darkened. "I'm sorry." The secretary smiled and reached out to take the contract in Mr. Lin's hand. He looked at it, and the veins on his forehead bulged. Finally, he shook his head and tore the contract in front of everyone's stunned eyes. "You!" The white-haired foreigner was so shocked that he was speechless. "What are you doing?" The people around him shouted angrily. "Crazy, crazy, the people of China are crazy." The secretary said, "If you don't like the contract, tear it up." Mr. Lin and the group of Chinese people were also stunned. What was going on? "Sir, do you know what you're doing? You have to take responsibility for tearing up the contract in public." The white-haired foreigner was enraged. "Do you believe that we'll join forces to beat you up?" The secretary said, "Beat us up. If you don't beat us up, we won't let you go. America, Japan, Never Setting Sun, Blast Furnace Asia. None of you can escape from this." "Are you crazy?" The great secretary said. "Oh, right, I forgot to tell you. The God of Thunder was begging Mr. Zhang for mercy, but you all know Mr. Zhang's temper. He's the devil you all speak of. How can anyone who offends him have a good ending? He didn't care about the God of Thunder's pleas at all. His blade was mercilessly raised and cut the God of Thunder in half from the middle. The people on the other side were all stunned. "Thunder God is dead?" The secretary said to Mr. Lin, "Let's go. There's no need to deal with this group of people anymore. What's waiting for them is the anger of Mr. Zhang and the big boss. They'll pay a price 1,000 times more painful than what's in the contract for their insolence just now." The white-haired old man was so scared that his whole body trembled. He hurriedly shouted, "Please wait. What else do you want to say?" The white-haired old man swallowed hard and said, "I'm sorry, honorable sir. We were wrong, we were wrong. Let's talk again, okay? Again very soon." The secretary smiled coldly. "There's nothing to talk about. Japan is your example." "Ah." The white-haired old man's eyes were about to pop out. The scene in Tokyo appeared in his mind. He knelt on the ground with a plop. "No, don't go. Let's talk, okay? We'll agree to all your conditions." The secretary shook his head and said, "It's too late. Mr. Zhang's temper is definitely not an eye for an eye. He always wants to kill all of them and leave no one alive." After saying that, the secretary ignored them and turned to leave. Mr. Lin and the others felt proud and elated. They felt completely refreshed. Sir. The white-haired old man and the negotiators from various countries were stunned, as if they had lost their parents. At the entrance of the Jiaoyu platform, the big boss personally lined up to welcome them. However, Zhang Luoxia did not appear. He had always been like this, as if nothing in the secular world was what he wanted. He fought for power and sought victory. As for the benefits of the secular world, he did not care at all. At this moment, he had already returned to the manor. Wang Xintong stood under the eaves. At this moment, the surrounding area had already been lit up. From afar, she could see the figure gliding through the air. Looking at the figure, although she already knew the result, she was still inexplicably excited. "You're back?" Zhang Xiu's face was still indifferent, but Wang Xintong's uncontrollable excitement formed a huge contrast. It was as if he had just gone out for a walk. "Get something to eat." Seeing that he was still indifferent, Wang Xintong's heart collapsed. Tears flowed out uncontrollably. Zhang Xiu passed by her. Looking at his cold and arrogant back, Wang Xintong said, "I want to dance for you." Zhang Xiu rarely said, "Let's eat and watch." "Okay." Wang Xintong's voice was a little more joyful. She immediately turned around and left. As soon as Zhang Xiu entered the room, the phone rang. "Hello. You definitely don't need my congratulations." Long Yingqing's voice was a little bored. "So I'm not calling to congratulate you. You have an old friend who is very concerned about you and called me, so I think it's necessary to tell you. Cheng Lingran was a special person." Long Yingqing felt that she had to tell Zhang Xiu. "Old friend." Long Yingqing said, "Yes, old friend. A friend from when we were studying at the capital university. I think you will never forget her. Campus Belle Cheng Lingran." Chapter 443. Zhang Xiu fell silent. Of course, he wouldn't forget the person who saved him like an angel in his previous life. Cheng Lingran left a mark in his heart that could never be erased. What did she say? Long Yingqing heard Zhang Xiu's calm tone and felt inexplicably disappointed. A long time ago, Long Yingqing had envied Cheng Lingran. In the past, she didn't understand why she was envious. In terms of family background, it was far inferior to her. In terms of talent, it was even more different. But now she understood that it was because of Zhang Xiu. She said, "She begged me." "Begged you?" Zhang Xiu frowned. In his previous life, Cheng Lingran had also begged others to find a job for him. This made the proud Zhang Luoxia very annoyed. It was like this in the past, it was like this now, and it would be like this in the future. "Yes, she begged me to save you." Zhang Xiu's brows relaxed slightly. He was moved, but in the next moment, he frowned again and softly spat out a sentence, "Self-righteous. I can feel that she has you in her heart." Zhang Xiu's eyes slowly looked in the direction of Zhongnan. His eyes were dark. He knew that Cheng Lingran had him in her heart, but could that be love? Childhood sweethearts had each other in their lives for 20 years. There were definitely feelings. It was more like the care of an old friend for many years. "You called me just to tell me this?" Long Yingqing said, "Not entirely. Last time in Huadong, you still owe me a meal. You still owe me a life." Long Yingqing couldn't help but roll her eyes. Zhang Xiu was very scary, but that was when he was angry. It was impossible for anyone to be angry. But when he wasn't angry, she still felt quite good. "That's why I said, come out and let's settle the accounts." Zhang Xiu sneered, "You're mine. Why are you still settling accounts with me?" His words made Long Yingqing's cheeks burn. Rogue. What a domineering sentence. It made our Long Yingqing's school bell hear rogue words. "Later, I'll eat something first." Not far away, Wang Xintong personally brought in the dishes. From time to time, she would tuck her hair behind her ears to prevent it from falling into the dishes. She glanced sideways at Zhang Xiu, her eyes full of charm. She placed the long table in front of Zhang Xiu. The curtains of the bed were drawn, and a faint light was lit. She slowly took off her clothes. Every movement of hers was natural, as if she was the goddess of Luo. Her cultivation progress could only be considered average. Judging from her dancing and her high IQ, her talent was definitely not bad. The reason for her slow progress was that Zhongnan was, after all, busy, so she spent more time practicing her dance. In terms of cultivation, she wanted to please Zhang Xiu more. Wang Xintong raised her arm and lifted her beautiful face. Her beautiful chest stood proudly in front of her. Then, she turned around and jumped, landing on the ground and circling around, showing off her charm. Her low moans and soft breathing sounds were like a song in the night wind. Her gaze was full of affection and charm. Her beautiful figure was projected on the wall. The shadow was enchanting and her movements were seductive. After a long time, Wang Xintong's soft body visibly twitched. Her eyes were still looking at Zhang Xiu, but her gaze was already unfocused. Sweat slid down her forehead, along her beautiful cheeks, and dripped to the ground, smashing into pieces. She no longer had a trace of strength. Every dance ended in this way. She would lie there motionless, her body twitching a few times from time to time. Her beautiful face was full of satisfaction. "Are you dancing for me, or do you need me to watch you dance?" "Why, every time I watch you, I always have the urge to collect money. I feel like I've lost 100 million yuan." Wang Xintong laughed and looked at Zhang Xiu charmingly. "You're so annoying." The spring evening breeze was indescribably comfortable. After Wang Xintong took a bath, she appeared refreshed beside Zhang Xiu in the attic. Her face was still flushed, and there was gentleness. "The big boss wants to see you," Zhang Xiu said. "Is the negotiation over?" "We've already signed the contract." The contract was ugly, but luckily you won. The big secretary tore the contract in front of the foreigners. "The division is planning to leave tomorrow." Zhang Xiu coldly said, "What kind of place do you think we are? You think you can come and go as you please?" "The big boss is looking for us to talk about this." Zhang Xiu said, "All right, then let's meet. Arrange for people to go to Jiangnan and bring my parents here." He remembered that when he first came back, he said that he wanted to make Lin Yueling the richest woman in the world. Today, he had already become an earth god and could leave for the immortal Martial Continent at any time. Before he left, he wanted to do what he couldn't do. "I understand." The current Zhang Xiu was the ruler of the world and had unlimited glory. When a person was happy, they wanted to share it with others. "Then I'll arrange for people to invite the old lady and the old man here." Zhang Xiu nodded. "Spend more time on cultivation. The other world's descent can no longer be stopped. In the future, the earth will develop in the direction of cultivation. And cultivation can protect one's appearance and allow one to live longer." She blinked and said, "Oh." At this time, Zhang Xiu's phone vibrated. It was a message from Long Yingqing. "Are you coming or not?" "I'm waiting for you." "Zhang Xiu, where do you want to meet?" "Long Yingqing, the school." Wang Xintong arranged for a car to send Zhang Xiu there. Originally, Long Yingqing was a very good choice. Unfortunately, this woman's temperament was unstable. Zhang Xiu couldn't see through her and didn't dare to entrust his parents' safety to her. The outside of the capital had changed a lot. The old streets were all rebuilt. After passing through the night market, they entered the school. It was already late, around 10 o'clock. The evening self-study in the school had already ended. Only the dormitory lights were still on. Long Yingqing, I'm at the entrance of the cafeteria. Under the moonlight, a peerless beauty stood there with her hands behind her back. She wasn't as domineering as the boys. Her posture looked more mischievous than before. "The cafeteria's door is closed." Long Yingqing said, "So be it. I didn't plan to invite you here. I just wanted to come here and take a look." Time flies. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 years have passed. We've all grown up. Zhang Xiu said, "You're very impressive. You're ranked first on the school's ranking list. Are you jealous?" Long Yingqing asked with a serious face, "If you're willing to publicly announce that Zhang Xiu is Zhang Luoxia, then you'll definitely be first. It's rare for a little girl to get first place. I think you're embarrassed to fight with me." Zhang Xiu chuckled. "We met in the cafeteria. You stood up for Cheng Lingran and splashed tomato egg soup on my face." "Yes, and then I splashed a basin of feces on your head." "Boring." Long Yingqing was very angry. She always touched the pot that didn't boil. "Let me tell you something serious. How are you and Cheng Lingran? She shouldn't have any reason to refuse you." Zhang Xiu's gaze was cast in the distance. It was also very close. The bright moon was also very bright. It was very comfortable, but there was a trace of disappointment in his eyes. He shook his head. "If you like someone, you don't have a choice. If you can choose, then it's not like." Long Yingqing was also sad. It was because there was no choice. Love was what made people obsessed. "So, she doesn't like you?" Jiang Xiu was silent. It could be considered as an admission. Why? When she asked this question, Long Yingqing felt that she was stupid again. Jiang Xiu was even more silent. Sometimes, he even wanted Cheng Lingran to be like her mother. She could be a bit snobbish and covet his power and money. But Cheng Lingran was a seriously ill literary girl. If she could bend over for 5 bushels of rice, she wouldn't be her. Then does she have someone she likes? This question really stumped Jiang Xiu. Cheng Lingran's world was so small. There were no other boys. She gave most of her time to herself. When she was in university, there were still pursuers, but they were all rejected. Later, there were no boys by her side. She knew how to deal with the boys' entanglement, but no boy could get close to her, except for himself. I'm not sure. Long Yingqing said. Didn't you ask her? No. Long Yingqing said. You should ask her. A girl, and a girl like her, should have a lot of pursuers. It's already considered few to have 3 or 5 boys, let alone none. Jiang Xiu said, You called me out today just to say this. Of course not. I'm not a gossip paparazzi. I want to ask you how you will deal with the following matters. There is still a third on the divine list in the capital. Chapter 444. Zhang Luoxia 1. In this era of information explosion, this news swept through the world like a gale. The entire God's emergence world was shaken, especially the experts from overseas. It was like a blow to the head. It made them realize that the East was no longer a weak country that they could wantonly humiliate. On the contrary, not only could they not humiliate them, they were above them, controlling their fate and toying with their life and death. How should we deal with this? Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with a cold intent. Those who offend me, Zhang Luoxia, will never be repaid with retribution. Instead, I will kill all of them and not leave a single one alive. Long Yingqing felt a cold intent spread out. No one doubted Zhang Luoxia's determination, and no one dared to doubt Zhang Luoxia's determination. Jiang Xiu's ruthlessness was not something she had experienced just once or twice, and he, Zhang Luoxia, would not change either. It was like this before, it was like this now, and it would be like this in the future. Then will you offend many people? Jiang Xiu coldly said, So what if I become enemies with the entire world? Peak experts were all like this. They only had themselves in their eyes, and behind their glory was loneliness. Long Yingqing's hands and feet turned cold. She was willing to get close to Jiang Xiu. This person seemed to have some kind of magic that deeply attracted her, but she was also extremely afraid of Jiang Xiu. He was a god and also a demon. You won't have any friends like this. Jiang Xiu said, Aren't you? Long Yingqing said, You don't treat me as a friend. At most, you treat me as a servant. When my long family relied on you before, that was what you meant. Jiang Xiu said, What can I do? You grew wings and flew away. However, when did he, Zhang Luoxia, ever lack a servant? He didn't lack her at all. Long Yingqing bit her especially bright red lips and said, What's so good about being your servant? I'll serve you tea and serve you, but I won't receive any love. Can I be promoted? Jiang Xiu said, You haven't made any contributions, yet you want to be promoted? Long Yingqing pouted and was a little emotional. It wasn't that she didn't want to help Jiang Xiu, but he was too strong and didn't need her at all. What can I do? Pour tea and water, wash clothes and fold a quilt. Jiang Xiu smiled and declined to comment. The campus at night was exceptionally quiet. The night breeze blew the leaves on the side of the road and they kept swaying. The two of them walked side by side. Time seemed to have returned to the time when they were students. Long Yingqing was thinking that if it weren't for the changes that happened in the future, if they were just ordinary students studying on campus, she didn't know if she would have developed feelings for Jiang Xiu and have a beautiful relationship with him. She felt that it was quite possible. Of course, Cheng Lingran would be Jiang Xiu's first choice. But when Jiang Xiu couldn't get her, if she took the initiative, Jiang Xiu would definitely accept her. She was the campus belle, so she wouldn't be unable to get him. All of that could only exist in fantasy. Isn't the Long family doing well in the north? Long Yingqing sighed and said, in the eyes of the people of North Korea, we are still outsiders. And in China, we have become traitors. You won't understand. Zhang Xiu said, then come back, but don't give up on the north. Long Yingqing said, I didn't beg you. Beside them was the bench by the grass. Back then, Zhang Xiu and Cheng Lingran sat there and chatted. She came to Zhang Xiu and begged him to protect the Long family. Now that she was in this position, Long Yingqing felt a little guilty. He, Zhang Xiu said, this can be considered a promise from before. The Long family being chased out was definitely not the big boss's idea. It should be the others, especially the Zhuge family, who were more or less related to Zhang Xiu. The Long family was regarded as Zhang Xiu's faction. Now that the Long family was in such a situation, Zhang Xiu naturally had to deal with it. Righteous, let's go, I'll treat you to a meal. Zhang Xiu said, if I don't agree, I won't be able to eat this meal. You should have treated me. The night market outside the capital was bustling, and the two of them casually found a place to sit down. At this moment, Long Yingqing really felt like she had returned to school, and the person sitting opposite her was also the right person. The two of them made some barbecue, and Zhang Xiu even ordered a bowl of casserole, and ate it contentedly. Have you been here with Cheng Lingran before? No. The shops here were all new. How could Long Yingqing not know? She just wanted to find out about the relationship between Zhang Xiu and Cheng Lingran. Sometimes, a woman's straightforwardness was very accurate, not to mention that Zhang Xiu had made a move on her for Cheng Lingran. Do you want to get it back? Zhang Xiu secretly shook his head. So the cold and aloof school flower's heart is so gossipy. Long Yingqing said, I just want you to be happy. Happy? Zhang Xiu laughed. This thing was poison to Zhang Xiu. In his previous life, he couldn't see any light in his life, he couldn't see any hope, so he treated everything indifferently. It was because of this that he became the head of the Tianqing school. In a world of killing, happiness would only stifle one's ambition. A gentle village, a hero's mound. Only with the trend of happiness would he work hard to pursue better power in an attempt to change his fate. And when he stepped on this path, happiness left him even further away. He only had Dugu to accompany him, and he walked further and further on the road of loneliness. I don't need it. Long Yingqing said, what if Cheng Lingran also likes you? Chopsticks hanging in the air, Zhang Xiu looked up. This was his extravagant wish, to come back. He liked to change this matter the most, but it seemed that it was already predestined. Why do you say that? Long Yingqing thought for a moment. Intuition, a woman's intuition. Whether or not the other person has you in his heart, a sensitive person can tell with just a glance. You're so magnanimous to accept my Long family again, I feel that I should do something for you. Zhang Xiu said, you don't want to thank me at all. I already said that the Long family was expelled, to a certain extent, because of me. You have the right to come back. You're just gossiping. Some people were just good matchmakers. He. Long Yingqing mischievously laughed, but she was very disappointed. She regretted her university life, but she didn't like Zhang Xiu and Cheng Lingran. The next day, a private jet from Zhongnan landed. The entire imperial capital airport was on alert. This time, even the big boss came to personally welcome them. Other than the big boss, there was also the big boss of America, Roger, the big boss of Never Setting Sun, the big boss of Apennine, the leaders of various countries. This was an unprecedented welcoming team. It wasn't that Zhang Xiu forced them to come, but when these people heard that Zhang Luoxia's parents were coming to imperial capital, they immediately realized that this was their only chance to atone for their sins and live. Lin Yueling and Zhang Yi appeared at the entrance of the plane. Welcome, welcome, a warm welcome. Well, the couple was shocked by the scene in front of them. Lin Yueling was a little better because she didn't know who the foreigner was, but Zhang Yi was involved in politics. He was familiar with these foreigners, and they were all leaders of the country. Now, Zhang Lai actually lined up in a row to welcome him. It was just like a dream. Of course, the couple didn't have such influence. All of this was naturally because of Zhang Xiu. He slowly walked down with Lin Yueling. Those foreigners were obedient, nodding their heads and flattering them like slaves. Zhang Yi walked down in a daze. His heart was set off stormy waves. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. His son was actually so promising. Hot tears fell from his eyes. His son, who he missed out on growing up because he was in prison, had already grown into a towering tree and brought him infinite glory. He was afraid that no one had such glory since ancient times. Looking from the corridor, a car was parked in the distance. Zhang Xiu was standing beside the car. At this moment, even Zhang Yi and his wife, who were parents, were moved by him. The demeanor of a king was revealed. Comrade Zhang Yi, welcome to Imperial Capital. The big boss shook his hand. Madam Lin Yueling, you gave birth to a good son. At the periphery of the airport, the people of the Lin family squeezed to the front. Seeing this scene, they sighed in their hearts. Zhang Xiu's family was actually so prosperous. This was a real king descending to the world. Thank you, thank you. Lin Yueling came to the front of the car amidst the sound of drums and music. She said to Zhang Xiu, "Son, what's going on? Even the big boss is here." "There are so many foreigners," Zhang Yi said with a strange expression. "Those are all national leaders. Almost all the powerful countries are here." "Ah!" Lin Yueling exclaimed softly. "These people are all here to welcome us?" She couldn't believe it. "What did she do?" Zhang Xiu said, "I said that I would make you the richest person in the world." "Son, in ancient times, she would definitely be the Empress Dowager." Chapter 445. The car drove directly into Jiaoyu Terrace. When they passed through the arched door, they looked at the solemn national emblem and could no longer suppress the pride in their hearts. Zhang Yi held Lin Yueling's hand tightly. Back then, the Zhang family and the Lin family were also very powerful, but they couldn't enter this place. Today they were here with such status. It was really an honor. Lin Yueling wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. It was not an exaggeration to say that she was the richest woman in the world now. Her son was a man of his words. The state banquet in Diaoyu Terrace was ready. The big boss personally welcomed Zhang Yi and his wife to their seats. They chatted and laughed. The big boss was also in high spirits. Behind him were the leaders of foreign countries. Even the one from America followed behind him like a servant. Zhang Xiu and his family sat together with the big boss and several big bosses of Diaoyu Terrace. The other foreign guests were all sitting in the second row. They could only look at the people sitting in front of them chatting and laughing. After 3 rounds of drinks, the foreign guests obeyed the instructions of the Chinese etiquette master and stood up to make a toast. These foreigners were already scared out of their wits. Zhang Luoxia was too powerful. The knife in his hand was 100 times more terrifying than a nuclear weapon. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bowed down to him. However, Zhang Luoxia's temperament was always ruthless. In the face of such a barbaric and powerless person, the so-called public opinion and political tactics that they usually played with were all useless. In the face of absolute power, any conspiracy was useless. All they could do now was pray. However, they were used to being high and mighty. One could imagine the anger in their hearts. The one from America even thought that after returning to America, he must use the power of the country to take revenge on Zhang Luoxia. The most important thing now was to survive. And Zhang Yi and Lin Yueling were their hope. These two were the Empress Dowager and the Emperor Emeritus. If they served them well, they might have a chance to survive and return to their homeland. "Yes, old Mr. Zhang, Madam Lin, I'm Rogart. It's an honor to make your acquaintance. Here's a toast to you." He held onto a bottle of white wine that could only be drunk by Cathayans. "Cheers." He finished the wine in one gulp. Lin Yueling wasn't a common woman. She had seen this big boss of America Bang many times on TV. America Bang was a superpower. It could be said that it was the most powerful country in the world. Lin Yueling was really flattered that the big boss of the most powerful country came over to toast her like a junior. But she found that her son and the big boss were very cold to this person, which made her very surprised. At the same time, she also realized that she should not talk nonsense. Zhang Yi even symbolically responded, "Mr. Zhang, we have offended you before, and we sincerely apologize. Also, we are willing to pay the price. Please give us another chance, Mr. Zhang." Zhang Xiu glanced at him indifferently. "You started this?" Rogart wanted to deny it, but this matter was indeed started by America. After Zhang Xiu's attack, public opinion was in an uproar. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to open the door to Cathayans. This matter gave him the opportunity. Coupled with Japan's request, it was a logical thing to do. Thunder God suppressed Zhang Xiu, and their country could suppress Cathayans. It was a sure win situation. With so many people swooping down, it was a sure thing. Everyone was waiting to get a share of the big cake. Who knew? No, it's true. But because of Mr. Zhang's actions in Japan, we have to give the people an explanation. Yes, it's just to deal with the people. Zhang Xiu said, "Give the people an explanation. My attack in Japan has nothing to do with you. Do you think you're awesome and want to meddle in everything? Or do you think you're the best and want to listen to everything you say?" Rogart's cold sweat dripped down. "No, Mr. Zhang, you've misunderstood. We don't mean that at all. We just want to give the people an explanation. The people of America have their own ideas. If we don't give them an explanation, they will make a scene and organize demonstrations." Zhang Xiu said, "Is that so? What does this have to do with them? What does it have to do with them?" Rogart stuttered and couldn't say anything. "Since you like to meddle in other people's business and have such a sense of justice, you have to do it to the end." Zhang Xiu asked someone to turn on the big screen. It was a video sent back by the satellite. From the video, it should be America. In the past, it would be affected by technical interference, but now, it didn't dare to interfere. "Isn't this America?" Rogart immediately recognized that it was his country in the video. It was the most prosperous place on Earth. Tall buildings stood tall, shopping malls were everywhere, and pedestrians were hurrying on the streets. It was a bustling scene. When he saw this scene, Rogart was quite proud. As long as he returned there, with so many people and such a powerful country, how could they not take care of Zhang Luoxia? "Mr. Zhang, what do you mean by this?" "What do I mean?" Zhang Xiu stood up and glanced at him. His eyes flashed with a terrifying murderous intent. His forehead flashed with light. With a swoosh, he waved his hand and a flying dagger flew out. The dagger flashed and actually shot out of the door. In the distance was the palace. The dagger flew up as if it had a mind of its own. It flew over the top of the palace and rushed into the sky. In an instant, it disappeared from everyone's sight. What on earth was this? Rogart was even more confused. He was just a politician. He didn't awaken and didn't understand martial arts. You'll understand soon enough. Zhang Xiu then sat down and drank by himself. He didn't look at Rogart again. This made Rogart very angry. He was the big boss of America, and Zhang Xiu had humiliated him again and again. Just as Zhang Xiu drank his third glass of wine, his hand stopped in the air. The screen suddenly lit up, and a saber light appeared in the sky of Smith Barney. "Mr. Rogart, you should have heard of my nature. I never repay the kindness of those who offend me. Instead, I kill all of them, leaving no one alive." "Oh my God!" Boom! That heaven-piercing long sword slashed down on Smith Barney. Under the light of the sword, some houses collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the sky, obscuring the entire video feed. This scene was very familiar. The last time it happened was in Japan. This time, it happened in the entire America. Oh my God! Even the people present could feel the earth shaking violently. The wine cups on the table were about to shake, and the wine was rippling in circles. It wasn't just Rogart. The other overseas divisions, and even the people of Hua Nation couldn't help but stand up and stare at the screen in shock. It's gone, gone. Grote's mind was blank, but he had seen the state of Re capital after the smoke and dust dispersed. It was barren, just like the surface of the moon. And Smith Barney would be the same under the smoke and dust. An entire country would be destroyed just like that. Clang! He fell to the ground and knocked over the table behind him. The plates on the table fell to the ground, but he didn't notice. It's gone. America, America, it's gone. He turned his head and looked at Zhang Xiu, who was drinking. He felt his eyes turn red. They were so red that they almost fell out. Devil, you're a devil. Zhang Xiu slowly turned his head. His cold gaze made Rogot swallow his words. Since they like to meddle in other people's business so much, I'll meddle in their business too. Rogot's face was ashen. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This price, this lesson, wasn't it a little too great? At this moment, even the big boss was dumbfounded. This matter was too big. This slash would definitely change more than just the world structure. It would probably affect the development of the entire human race in the future. That blank space would be the first to grow. The ones who would control it might not be humans. The current exotic beasts were also growing very quickly. The members of the Overseas Division were trembling. Although Smith Barney was the main culprit, they were also accomplices. Would he? Thinking of this, they no longer had the courage to stand in front of Zhang Xiu. One by one, they knelt down. Mr. Zhang, calm down. Mr. Zhang, calm down. Zhang Xiu glanced at them. You seem to have signed a contract with us. Swoosh. Everyone's expression changed. Chapter 446. The spirit stone guarding the country had been absorbed by Zhang Xiu, and it was inevitable that the alternate world would descend upon Hua Nation. Hua Nation was vast and rich in resources, and there would be many demon gods when the time came. Compared to the invasion of the United States, Zhang Xiu was more willing to give them a piece of pure land. Zhang Xiu said, "Let's have another negotiation meeting." Okay. The Overseas Diplomatic Corps did not dare to say no at all. In order to survive, they had to agree to any conditions. It was too terrifying, too terrifying. The ground was still shaking. Not only did it not weaken, but it also seemed to be getting stronger. Everyone looked up at the video. From the angle of the space camera, they saw a long groove in the smoke and dust that filled the sky, and it was constantly widening. Boom, boom. The earth was shaking obviously, and the people standing there fell directly to the ground. The video clearly showed that there was an obvious crack on the surface of the earth, as if it had been cut open by a saber light. Amid the rumbling sounds, countless broken stones flew out from the crack, and some of them were suspended in the air. Oh my God! The earth was still shaking, and from the video, the earth had been forcibly split into two halves. Zhang Luoxia had cut the earth in half with a blade. The separation of the earth lasted for about half an hour. Judging from the satellite images, the distance between the two halves of the earth was no longer just a crack. Instead, it was as wide as the radius of the earth. Countless fine floating rocks inside were completely cut in half. They were dumbfounded and tongue-tied. Was he still human? He was really a god. Zhang Xiu said calmly, "Half belongs to the humans, and the other half belongs to the awakened beasts. With the middle as the boundary, we can never interact with each other, or we can sign a contract to establish diplomatic relations." Some of the members of the American division were already stunned. Their territory had been taken away, and they had to move to another place. Zhang Xiu said, "From now on, our half will be called the human world, and the other half will be the demon realm." Zhang Xiu was not talking about the affairs of a city or a country, but the affairs of the entire human race and this world. As the only Earth God in this world, he definitely had the strength and qualifications to do so. "Yes, Mr. Zhang." Zhang Xiu spoke in a flat tone, as if he was telling the truth. Everyone present dared not to disobey him. The elegance of the top warrior on the divine list was fully displayed. Earth was about to enter a brand new world. Many people's eyes were still on the video. It was as if an interstellar war had taken place. The Earth had been forcefully split into two halves. There was a strange magnetic field between the two halves of the sphere. It was unknown if human aircraft could still fly, and that complete picture of Earth would become a thing of the past. There was no doubt that Cathay would dominate the world in the future. Let's continue drinking. The world was shocked by the news. Zhang Luoxia's reputation reached its peak. He ranked first on the divine roll and dominated the history of mankind. If it was someone else, they would definitely ask all the countries to hang up a portrait of them. But our spiritual cultivation is very low-key. Once it's done, we'll leave, hiding our achievements and fame. When they returned to the manor, Jiang Yi and his wife were also very emotional. Fortunately, Zhang Xiu had done many earth-shattering things before. Otherwise, they would have been really shocked. The sun was still warm. It fell on the flowers and plants in the manor. It was quiet and peaceful. Lin Yueling was sitting in the yard. When she saw Zhang Xiu coming, she waved at him and said, "Son." When she first saw the baby in swaddling clothes, Lin Yueling had never thought that one day he would be so successful and dominate the history of mankind. However, when a man had a career, he also had to consider personal issues. Now, she was waiting for this matter to happen. She was waiting to hold a chubby grandson. Sit next to Mom. Zhang Xiu sat lazily on the bench, half squinting at the sun in the sky. Before I came, guess who came to see me? Zhang Xiu shook his head. No matter how powerful he was not good at divination. Su Su and Ran Ran. Zhang Xiu did not answer. He knew Lin Yueling very well. She was a soft-hearted person. What's interesting is that the two sisters didn't come to see me together. They came separately. Ran Ran came first, and then Su Su. They came to see me because they wanted to see you. Zhang Xiu said, "After all, we're still friends. If they wanted to see me, they could have just called me. Why would they tell you? Maybe they want me to say a few good words for them." Lin Yueling paused for a moment. "Son, what are you thinking? Human nature is ugly. As the saying goes, husband and wife are birds in the same forest. When disaster strikes, they fly away separately. Don't test yourself. You can't withstand the test. They must have come to see you because they want to get back together. I think that's fine too. But if you really can't get over this in your heart, Mom won't force you." Zhang Xiu said, "Cheng Lingsu is also a proud person. Now that the Cheng clan is doing well, of course, it won't be as good as being with me. But it won't be bad either. She doesn't need to make things difficult for herself." Lin Yueling said, "You're saying that I misunderstood them?" Zhang Xiu nodded. "Then do as you wish. What did Sister Ran Ran say to you?" Lin Yueling thought for a moment and said, "Nothing special. She said that she came to see me and chatted for a while. Also, she mentioned that she hasn't seen you for a long time. She asked me to tell you when I see you. If you're free, let's meet for tea." With Cheng Lingren's personality, it must be very difficult for her to do this after being rejected once. Cheng Lingran probably cared about him, but this wasn't the relationship he wanted. Zhang Xiu turned his body and looked at his mother. "Mom, I might have to leave." "Leave? Where are you going?" Zhang Xiu was now an earth god. He could enter the fourth heaven of the Great Void. He didn't know what it would be like to enter the fourth heaven of the Great Void. He might not be able to return. Besides, even if he could return successfully, he would have to leave Earth and embark on the 100-year journey back to the immortal Martial Continent. Immortal cultivators cut off the mortal world. In the immortal Martial Continent, many disciples were chosen to go up the mountain because of their talent. After 100 years in the mountains, when they returned, their families were already bones. This was the norm for immortal cultivators. The great Tao was merciless. Leave Earth and go to a place far, far away. Lin Yueling was stunned. "Are you really going to leave?" Zhang Xiu had split the earth with his saber. Lin Yueling had such a feeling that the earth could no longer contain this flood dragon. You can leave, but before that, you have to marry a wife and give birth to a child before you leave. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was stunned. He had never thought of leaving behind an heir on earth. More importantly, it was already difficult enough for immortals to have children, and it was even more difficult for gods to have children. The more noble the bloodline of a god, the more difficult it was for them to reproduce. This was the restriction of heaven and earth. Judging from the current situation, Jiang Xiu's divine bloodline should be quite interesting. He was afraid that he would not be able to reproduce. Moreover, even if he could, mortal women couldn't. "Mom, aren't you making things difficult for me?" Lin Yueling said. "How is this making things difficult for you? You've grown up and have great ambitions. Mom won't stop you, and I won't stop you. But is it too much for you to leave a descendant for the Jiang family?" A voice came from behind. "Your mom is right. I also have the same intention." Jiang Yi appeared behind him. "If it's fast, it'll only take a year. If it's slow, it'll only take 3 years. Jiang Xiu smiled bitterly. "Let alone 1 or 3 years, even if you gave him 300 years, he might not be able to do it." But he couldn't say this. This was related to his face. "Your parents are ordinary people. They won't live for too long. 30 years, maybe 40 years. To you, it's just the blink of an eye. If you can't have a child, you can accompany us in death." Jiang Xiu said, "Mom. Then hurry up and find a partner. Don't waste any time." Jiang Xiu thought about it. The only person who met the requirements now was Nangong Ko-er. But Nangong Ko-er was a good girl, and he couldn't hurt her. In fact, he was also conflicted in his heart. If he had to have a child with someone, the only one he could accept was Cheng Lingran. Let's go back to Jiangnan first. The next day, Jiang Xiu and his family took a private jet back to Jiangnan. The world had changed greatly. The earth had been split into 2 halves. Naturally, Jiangnan had caused quite a stir, but it didn't affect Jiangnan in the slightest. It was said that all the people on that planet had migrated to Jiangnan. In terms of the land per capita, the population had doubled. People in the real estate industry believed that the real estate industry would become more developed. Chapter 447. No matter how the earth changed, whether it was natural disasters or man-made disasters, or famine, the days would go on as usual. Many people even tiptoed to the border of the hemisphere to take a look at the Earth's Duan Hang. From the photos on the news, there was an intense light shining from inside. Some people said that it was Zhang Luo's blade. Some people had predicted that it would become a tourist destination. Cheng Lingran also saw a business opportunity, but she was helpless. There was no other reason. After the family and the Zhang family became enemies, the Cheng clan couldn't get land in Zhang City. She went to find Lin Yueling with this excuse. It was good to change the situation, but she still wanted to make it clear to Jiang Xiu. They grew up together. Not only were they friends, but they also confided in each other. Especially after Cheng Lingran found out that she hurt Jiang Xiu, she wanted to make it clear, even though she was also hurt in this matter. After Jiang Xiu returned home, Lin Yueling was nagging. Mom was impulsive back then. I would rather destroy 10 temples than destroy a marriage. I shouldn't have let you divorce. Little did she know that Lin Yueling fell into the hole dug by her son. Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, "Mom, you're too soft-hearted. Cheng Lingsu talked to you and you were persuaded?" He paused for a moment before continuing, "It's impossible between us. Not to mention the divorce, I made her lose a great opportunity at the Gods Discover Exchange Conference in Hangzhou. I could feel the strong hostility in her eyes when she looked at me." Lin Yueling said, "How did the husband and wife end up like this? Even if you can't be friends, you shouldn't hate each other." Jiang Xiu said, "I don't mind her hating me." Lin Yueling knew that Jiang Xiu's heart was as firm as iron. He didn't care whether Cheng Lingsu hated him or not. She sighed helplessly and said, "But when I think about how she saved me and my son, I feel guilty." After Jiang Xiu heard this, He fell silent. He went to the window and cast his gaze at Yi Bing's house in the distance. However, there was no movement inside. She was not at home. This snake demon god had to get to the bottom of things before he left. "I'm going out." Cheng Lingran didn't expect Zhang Xiu to take the initiative to call her. When she picked up the phone, her eyes couldn't help but redden. All the grievances exploded at this moment. She cried immediately. "You still know how to call me?" She tried to make her voice sound normal. Zhang Xiu said, "My mom said that you're looking for me." Cheng Lingran really didn't want to talk to him, but she couldn't bear to. She could only say, "Where are you?" "I'm not far from your company. Fanqing Coffee Bar." When Cheng Lingran saw Zhang Xiu, she had already wiped away her tears and carefully dressed up. The current Cheng Lingran was becoming more and more like his memory of her in the future. Looking at her from afar, he saw that she was tall and graceful. Her waist was especially thin. When she walked, she swayed slightly. Her legs were straight and crossed. She walked leisurely. It could be said that she was swaying and charming. The wind by the river blew non-stop. She fiddled with her messy hair from time to time. The grass under her feet was green and shiny with water droplets. Her spiritual aura made people marvel at the exquisiteness of Jiangnan women. Her limpid eyes were a little red. She must have just cried. She looked very lovable. "If Auntie didn't tell you, did you plan to never see me again?" Zhang Xiu didn't say anything. At this moment, the waiter walked over. "What would you like to drink?" "Juice." Cheng Lingran felt that Zhang Xiu was rejecting her. He deliberately alienated her. She lowered her head sadly. Her long eyelashes fluttered gently. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have said those words to make you sad. Actually, you like me, don't you?" She lowered her head even more. Zhang Xiu said, "I think so." Cheng Lingran got an affirmative answer. Her hands on her skirt tightly grasped it. She was very happy. She had been looking forward to this scene for a long time. She had thought of many opening remarks. But when she sat down, she decided to make it clear. After so many years of separation, she didn't want to miss it again because of cowardice and reserve. "I like you too." Zhang Xiu chuckled. He turned his head and looked at the river in the distance. "There's nothing about me that makes you like me." Cheng Lingran raised her head. She saw a flash of pain in Zhang Xiu's eyes. She heard him say, "Sister, feelings can't be given alms." "I don't." Cheng Lingran shook her head hard. Zhang Xiu said, "I don't know about the situation of the Cheng clan. I should pay attention to this matter. I guess my father's anger has subsided. If the Cheng clan wants to take the land again, they should make it convenient. No, minor repairs. Don't misunderstand, okay?" Cheng Lingran looked at Zhang Xiu opposite her. Her eyes were shining with tears. "I'm not giving alms, and I won't use it as a transaction for the development of the Cheng clan." Zhang Xiu's vision became blurred. He could see many things clearly, but he couldn't see clearly in front of Cheng Lingran. Maybe it was because his feelings were too deep. "Then will you marry me?" Cheng Lingran nodded immediately. But after nodding, she shook her head. "If I marry you, no matter what my parents and Su Su think, my family will fall apart." Zhang Xiu sighed. A cold hand pressed on the back of his hand. Her fingers were very beautiful. The fingernails were neatly clipped and sparkled under the sun. "I can't marry you now, but I can always be with you. Maybe in 10 or 20 years, we'll both be old and grown up. This matter won't be so serious." Cheng Lingran avoided his eyes again. It was obvious that she was very afraid. She was a person who could never be selfish. "I want a child." Cheng Lingran looked up at Zhang Xiu in astonishment. Her mouth opened slightly, and she spat out a word with difficulty. "Ah." She didn't seem to understand, but her pretty face was a little red. This was also the reason why Zhang Xiu came to Cheng Lingran. If he had to leave a child on earth, He hoped that it would be a child with Cheng Lingran to make up for the regret of his previous life. In his heart, he only wanted to have a child with Cheng Lingran. This matter should. Cheng Lingran cleverly changed the topic and said, "Have you seen Su Su when you came back?" Zhang Xiu shook his head. "Why don't you meet Su Su first, and then we can talk about our matter?" Zhang Xiu knew that the biggest obstacle between them was Chang Lingsu. It seemed that he could only meet Chang Lingsu first and make all the debts clear. He nodded. "Where is she?" Cheng Lingran said, "She's also in Jiang City. Her number hasn't changed." She reached out and pulled Zhang Xiu up and said, "Don't sit here. I'll take you to eat. I haven't had lunch yet." When Zhang Xiu turned around, Cheng Lingran hugged him from behind. She leaned on Zhang Xiu's back and sobbed softly. "Don't cry. If you cry again, people will think that I'm a hooligan. I'll be wronged if I get caught by the police. You're not only a hooligan, but also a bastard. The last time I went to your house to find you, why did you ignore me? Do you know how sad I was?" Cheng Lingran cried very fiercely. In the small lounge, the two of them were passionately entangled. Cheng Lingran was surprisingly enthusiastic and active that day. The white sheets became a mess. "I'm going to be pregnant. Can you send me abroad?" Zhang Xiu said, "It's not that easy. You have to work harder in the future." Cheng Lingran didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She felt that she had fallen into a trap again. "I'm willing to do whatever you want. I'm just afraid that you'll hurt your body." "I'm not afraid." Zhang Xiu's eyes were red. Cheng Lingran let out a soft cry. Her delicate body trembled slightly. She whispered in Zhang Xiu's ear, "I'll accept whatever you do to me in the future." After a long time, Cheng Lingran snuggled in Zhang Xiu's arms. Her body was soft and weak. Her languid posture was beautiful. She said faintly, "I think I have to correct it. This will really hurt your body. Didn't you say that you're not afraid? Now I'm afraid." Cheng Lingran glanced at him charmingly. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door outside the lounge. Cheng Lingran shivered and asked nervously, "Who is it?" "Sister, are you inside?" Hearing Cheng Lingsu's voice, Cheng Lingran covered her mouth in horror and said, "Oh my God." She hurriedly said to Zhang Xiu, "It's Su Su. What should we do?" "Hide, hide." Zhang Xiu said, "If you know, just know." Cheng Lingran's pretty face suddenly turned pale. She shook her head and said, "No." "Sister, what are you doing inside? I'll open the door and come in." The door lock was pulled. Chapter 448. The door opened very quickly, and a small gap had already been opened. At this moment, Cheng Lingran was scared out of her wits. She saw Zhang Xiu walking towards the wall, and before his body turned into smoke, he had already finished putting on his clothes, passed through the wall, and disappeared without a trace. "Sister, what are you doing?" Cheng Lingran curled up in her bed, still in shock, and said, "Sleeping, sleeping?" In her heart, she was secretly relieved. Just now, she really almost suffocated. If Su Su really found out, she really didn't know how to face it. "I heard that guy went back to Jiangnan." Zhang Xiu wasn't in the mood to listen to what the two sisters were saying. He floated forward, and after passing through several walls, he arrived at a room that looked like an office. Originally, he didn't want to stop, but he heard a delicate female voice, "Don't be in such a hurry." This tone was too. As an experienced driver, he could tell at once. The problem was, this was an office, and it was in broad daylight. She didn't know how to restrain herself. But it seemed like spiritual cultivation was doing this kind of thing. It was a classic example of only allowing officials to set fires, but not allowing the common people to light lamps. After being pressed against the wall by a man and hearing a charming cry, Zhang Xiu secretly cursed his bad luck. First, he was caught in the act, and now he saw someone else doing such a thing. "Look at how anxious you are." Zhang Xiu couldn't help but shake his head. The employees of the Cheng clan were actually having an affair in the office. If this kind of situation existed, how could the Cheng clan be any better? However, thinking about the Cheng clan today, there was almost nothing to do. This was probably because they were too free. Soon, the white-collar female cried out in a sad and sorrowful voice. Damn, this is simply torture. Maybe our spiritual cultivation's body temperature has risen. Fortunately, that man was done after a few rounds. Jiang Xiu wiped the sweat from his forehead and thought to himself, I should be the unluckiest earth god in history. She was about to leave, but who knew that the man would ask, Xiao Li, is that Qin guy as powerful as me? The woman said, Are you crazy? Why do you have to compare everything to him? There's nothing between me and Manager Chen. There's something wrong with his body. The man said proudly, Aren't I awesome? Spiritual cultivation felt like 10,000 alpacas were galloping wildly in his heart. What the F***CK? When I came forward, you had not even started, but when I was about to leave, you had already finished. It was less than a minute in total. How dare you talk about divorce? I've seen thick-skinned people, but I've never seen such a thick-skinned person. That female voice was very pleasing. You're tormenting me to death. Spiritual cultivation almost burst out laughing. Sister, is it really okay for you to lie like this? Did you find out what I asked you to find out? The female voice said, This is indeed very strange. It seems that Ms. Cheng is immune to drugs. No matter how strong the drug is, it doesn't work. I advise you to give up on Ms. Cheng. She used to be Mr. Zhang's sister-in-law. That's me. I don't have the guts to do that. It's Su Qingwen who chased after her to no avail and became angry. Jiang Xiu had already left, but when he heard this, he couldn't help but squat down and shout. His eyes flashed coldly. It seemed that Cheng Lingran was still completely in the dark. If Jiang Xiu hadn't planted a powerful amulet on Cheng Lingran last time, she might have been tricked by these villains. The anger in his heart was rising. It could be said that he was really lucky today to run into this matter. Otherwise, he didn't know what kind of consequences it would have caused. Su Qingwen? In these years, in order to protect the Chang clan and develop it, Cheng Lingran had put in a lot of effort. It was inevitable that she had to deal with these rich and famous people. Of course, with her appearance, it was inevitable that she would be coveted. She had been very careful, but she still fell for it. Killing these two people would only dirty his hands. Moreover, if he killed them directly, it would only dirty his hands. There were plenty of people who would deal with this couple. He turned and walked out of the Cheng clan. Just as he stepped out of the door, Jiang Xiu received an unfamiliar phone call. It wasn't unfamiliar, but he didn't save the number of his ex-wife. What's the matter? He agreed to let Cheng Lingran see her. It should be Cheng Lingran who told him. Cheng Lingsu said, You're so cold. Even if we're divorced, we're still friends who grew up together. You're a big man, you don't have to be so stingy. Well, the spirit cultivation method was placed on the pettiness and couldn't come down. Where are you? Behind you. Jiang Xiu turned around and saw Cheng Lingsu standing at the entrance of the Cheng clan building. She was wearing a fashionable one-piece dress. The lapels of her clothes fluttered slightly, showing the charm of a young girl in the spring breeze. She looked at Jiang Xiu with a charming smile on her face. Women were born liars. The prettier a girl was, the better she was at lying. It seemed that the two of them had already broken up. Instead, it felt like a chance encounter after not seeing each other for many years. However, Cheng Lingsu's smile was indeed charming. In the blink of an eye, another year had passed. She was even prettier. You saw it. Why did you still call? I wanted to see if you would pick it up. Cheng Lingsu walked over. If Jiang Xiu didn't pick up the call, she wouldn't have lowered herself to greet him. You really only listened to my sister. Jiang Xiu didn't answer her. He pointed forward and walked away. The two of them walked to the riverbank across the street. Su rushed ahead of him and ran along the beach all the way to the riverbank. Her dress was red. Her long black hair and snow-white skin complemented each other, reflecting a beauty that didn't belong to the mortal world. The river water splashed at her feet and then retreated. She turned around. When did the conflict between us start? When you transferred schools. Was it because I asked you to pretend that you didn't know me in school? Do you think I hurt you? Jiang Xiu said, You can say that. Regarding this matter, Jiang Xiu in his previous life was very sad. From then on, he began to feel inferior and walked with his head down in school. Chang Lingsu said, But I've never looked down on our relationship. Because of our relationship, I've never had a boyfriend. Yi Wenchen chased me for 3 years, but I never agreed. Even my relationship with young Master Song was forced by you. I have my bottom line. Jiang Xiu's gaze fell on the fine sand at his feet. If it wasn't for the memories of his previous life, Chang Lingsu really didn't have any major problems. Everything that Jiang Xiu didn't accept her was because of the hatred left in his heart in his previous life. I admit, I want to date more outstanding and handsome boys. Who isn't like that in their youth? Don't you also like beautiful girls? If I had a pig's head, would you look at me? Jiang Xiu didn't care about this at all, but he couldn't explain it to Chang Lingsu. He didn't want to explain it either. He said, It's all in the past. Maybe it's just like what my mom said. If we really calculate it, I should owe you more. He was the one who planned the divorce, and he achieved his goal. Now that he was in a relationship with Chang Lingran, and Chang Lingran cared a lot about Chang Lingsu, he had to appease her. So, Jiang Xiu said, Make your request, but don't bring up those stupid questions. Chang Lingsu's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. She pursed her lips, turned around, picked up a small stone, and threw it into the sea. She had already said so much. The only thing left was to ask for his forgiveness. Why? We've been a couple since we were young. Jiang Xiu said, Because you despise the poor and love the rich. You're too vain. Chang Lingsu felt as if her heart had been whipped. She suddenly turned around with anger on her face. So what? In this world, who doesn't want to live a good life? Who isn't vain? Who isn't like that? Jiang Xiu retorted, Your sister isn't like that. My sister? Chang Lingsu's face turned red. She said angrily, My sister has always been a perfect goddess in your heart, but how much do you know about her? She doesn't despise the poor and love the rich. She's not greedy for vanity? That's because she's not tempted enough. She's greedier than anyone else. Her heart is bigger than anyone else's. Jiang Xiu frowned. What are you talking about? She's your sister. Chang Lingsu turned her head and didn't say anything. Make a request. Chang Lingsu said, Okay, I won't mention that stupid thing. Chang Lingsu, am not that cheap. You want to make a request, right? Then teach me your throwing knives. What? Chang Lingsu raised a contemptuous smile. What? You don't dare? That's what you rely on to run rampant in the world. Are you afraid that one day I'll surpass you if you teach me? The path of a knife cultivator was not that simple. Zhang Luoxia's strength was not only because of his cultivation method, but also because of the longevity rune stone. Okay, I'll teach you. The knife technique will repay your kindness for saving my life. From now on, we're even. In the future, there will be no connection between you and me. Chang Lingsu opened her beautiful eyes in surprise. You're really willing to teach me? Chapter 449. Saber cultivation wasn't taught by Tianqing School, and he wasn't restricted by Tianqing School's rules. Of course, he could teach it, and it could be considered breaking off his relationship with Chang Lingsu. No matter what, Chang Lingsu saved him and his mother, but Chang Lingsu later killed his parents. However, since nothing happened in this life, this saber technique could be considered as repayment for saving his life. Of course. Jiang Xiu's reply was very resolute, but he was still somewhat angry in his heart. This saber technique was nothing to Jiang Xiu. In fact, it could only be considered ordinary in the immortal martial continent, far from being at the peak. However, Cheng Ling-su didn't know that. She believed that this saber technique was Zhang Xiu's greatest asset to survive. If it was stolen by others, then he might not be the invincible Mr. Zhang under the heavens. Cheng Ling-su said, "Okay, then I hope you'll keep your word." Of course, everyone knew that Mr. Zhang was a man of his word, except for the occasional shameless act. However, Cheng Ling-su believed him. Although Zhang Xiu was a bastard and arrogant to the extreme, he still kept his word. She said, "I heard that you don't have any girls by your side. Why don't you find one?" This was also one of the reasons why Cheng Ling-su turned back to look for Zhang Xiu. Such a big guy, no matter what, would need a woman, but Zhang Xiu didn't. Girls, especially beautiful girls, were always full of self-confidence. She thought that Zhang Xiu still couldn't let go of her in his heart, and only broke up with her because she made him lose face, lost his dignity, and was seen as a snobbish woman. Actually, he still liked her in his heart. Zhang Xiu said, "Who said I don't?" Cheng Ling-su widened her eyes and said, "Auntie said so." "Don't tell me, you have a girlfriend?" "Of course I do." Cheng Ling-su's eyes revealed an imperceptible sense of loss, and her tone inevitably became indifferent. She squeezed out a smile and said, "Is that so? I thought you didn't. Can you tell me who it is?" Zhang Xiu said, "Why bother? We've already separated. We did break up, but we were still friends for so many years. We grew up together. There's no need to know." Zhang Xiu said, "When do you want the blade technique?" Cheng Ling-su said, "As soon as possible." Feeling Zhang Xiu's indifference to her, Cheng Ling-su was a little dispirited. She felt a faint pain in her heart and wanted to cry. She had been doted on since she was a child, which made her somewhat unable to bear the setbacks on the road of love. "Come with me," Cheng Ling-su said. "Not today, I still have something to do." Zhang Xiu had already returned and stopped walking. He felt strange. Was there anything more important in this world than getting the blade technique? But since she said so, Zhang Xiu let her be. He nodded and turned to leave. "Do you want me to give you a ride?" Zhang Xiu shook his head. He took out his phone and called the driver. The car was parked at the end of the road and soon came. The driver was a disciple of the Tang family. This was not a treatment that ordinary people could receive. Sitting in the car, Zhang Xiu asked, "Is there a person called Su Qingwen in Jiang City?" The driver replied, "Yes, the Su family is doing well in Jiang City now. They are also in the real estate business." "Mr. Jiang, do you want to deal with them?" "Yes. Inform Tang Wenchong. Don't leave a single one alive." "Yes." Zhang Xiu had no interest in talking nonsense with these clowns, especially when these clowns dared to touch the people around her. Although Chang Lingran had her amulet and would be fine, the other party's intentions were already unforgivable to Zhang Xiu. And that man and woman were doing the business of pimping. They were even more disgusting than the initiator. At this moment, in the Su family building not far from the CBD of Jiang City, a man in his 30s was lying on the sofa with a cigar in his mouth. He was enjoying the spicy taste of the cigar. "Is your medicine not working?" I saw Cheng Lingran drink it a few times, but she didn't have any reaction at all. She was conscious and able to deal with it easily. "Definitely not. My medicine must be effective. I've already tried it. There's no problem 100%. That's strange. Is it because Cheng Lingran has a special constitution that makes her immune to medicine?" Opposite him was a skinny man in a white suit. "Mr. Su, why do you have to play this game with her? Just be tough." Su Qingwen said, "I can't do this openly. She's not an ordinary person. She's Zhang Luoxia's ex-sister-in-law. Anyway, settle this for me. I'll ask Cheng Lingran out tonight. The Chung clan can't get the land, so they want to get a second-hand land. Who's a fool now? The land price is going to rise." Thinking of that peerless beauty, Su Qingwen's body heated up. He picked up his phone and called Cheng Lingran. "Mr. Cheng, I have a gathering here today. All the big shots in the real estate industry are coming. I'm only missing a beauty like you. Chang Lingran said. Is that so? It's a pity that I have something to do tonight. Can't come? Su Qingwen was stunned. Ever since he agreed to transfer a second-hand land to Chang Lingran, he could come out whenever he wanted. Mr. Cheng, this is a big deal. Don't you want your land anymore? Chang Lingran could see Su Qingwen's intentions, but she still had a trace of hope in her heart. The Cheng clan needed the project too much right now. No need. What? Cheng Lingran said, I don't need it anymore. If the Cheng clan wants the land, we'll bid for it openly. You don't have to worry about it anymore. After saying that, she hung up. Damn it! Su Qingwen cursed fiercely after the call was hung up. What's wrong? That bitch didn't give me face and refused to come. Su Qingwen was furious. Is it because you've been hanging on her for too long? She knows that you won't transfer the land to her. At this moment, the door was pushed open and Tang Wenchong walked in. Su Qingwen saw him and his expression changed drastically. He was overjoyed. Young Master Tang, what brings you here? The Tang family was definitely the number one in Zhongqing. Tang Wenchong was now one of the top young masters in Jiangnan and had started to take over the family business. What wind? Tang Wenchong shook his head indifferently. How dare you be disrespectful to Mr. Zhong's sister-in-law? Behind him, two people wearing green masks with fangs appeared. Kill! Su Qingwen was scared out of his wits. He shouted, No, no. I didn't do it on purpose. Blood splattered on the floor-to-ceiling window. Take the Su family's assets as compensation to Mr. Cheng. After returning home, Jiang Xiu glanced at the Yi family's villa. Yi Bing still hadn't returned. Jiang Xiu entered his secret room. He had delayed this matter for a few days. He sat cross-legged in the secret room. His divine telekinesis was clear. His consciousness left his body and entered the Taishu realm again. Jiang Xiu had become an earth god. His divine telekinesis was extremely powerful. It was as easy as walking to the first 3 levels. He went straight up and passed through the obstacles. He reached the top of the 3rd heaven. There was light shining down on the road. From Jiang Xiu's perspective, he could see a tree. It was a tree that could be seen everywhere. However, it was not ordinary at all. It gave people a mysterious feeling. There was a cow eating grass with its head lowered under the tree. Jiang Xiu abruptly rushed upwards. He felt a strong and unparalleled rebounding force crushing down on him, directly crushing him. He gritted his teeth and abruptly rushed upwards again. Boom! The cow that was eating grass was stunned for a moment because the ground under its feet shook. Perhaps it felt something strange, so it lowered its head to look. Jiang Xiu saw a pair of big cow eyes. It felt like someone was sneaking in from the outside. Boom! Jiang Xiu bumped into the bull again. This time, the bull really felt it. It jumped away in fright. It even let out a snort from its nose. The ground suddenly moved. Anyone would be shocked. Our brother cow had been tricked. It was eating grass happily. Now, it was so scared that it didn't dare to eat anymore. Who would be responsible if it starved to death? Little did they know that an outsider was about to climb up from the ground. Bang! There was a bump on the ground. The cow stared at it. It suddenly jumped over and stomped on the bump. Evildoer, don't try to scare me. Our pitiful Xianqian felt an unparalleled heavenly might pressing down on him. The power of the realm force was so strong that it caused him to fall straight down from the sky. This angered Jiang Xiu even more. He chanted an incantation and suddenly rushed up. There was a boom. He directly knocked away the light above his head. He saw darkness in front of him. Accompanied by the sound of a cow, Brother Cow fell from above. It pressed down on Jiang Xiu's divine telekinesis all the way down. Clang! Brother Cow appeared in Jiang Xiu's secret chamber. It pressed down heavily on Jiang Xiu's body. Chapter 450. Falling from the fourth layer of heaven with the power of the realm, one could imagine the power. Even though Xiao Shan had a divine body, he was still crushed half to death. He almost couldn't breathe. The cow was so scared that it was dancing with joy. Its mouth kept making mooing sounds. Quick, get down. Spiritual cultivation was also shocked. She tried to push the strange bull down, but found that the bull had the power of the realm and could not be moved. Moo! The bull rolled down from Zhang Xiu's body and widened its eyes. It was like a young girl who was suddenly done with. It was not good for the bull. Who are you? The bull looked at Zhang Xiu in a daze and shook its head. What kind of world are you in? How did you end up in my world? The bull was still in a daze and then shook its head. Zhang Xiu felt strange. To be able to be in the fourth heaven of the great void, that place could almost be considered as the immortal world. The bulls in the immortal world could not speak. Even if many animals on earth had awakened, the strange beasts could also speak. This bull could not be worse than the strange beasts on earth. It was at least a bull demon god. Even if it could not transform, it should be able to speak. I'm asking you a question. Can you answer me? The bull still shook its head. Its eyes were still looking around. In terms of body shape, it was exactly the same as the bulls on earth. Zhang Xiu did not pay attention to it anymore. He immediately got rid of all distracting thoughts and wanted to enter the great void realm with his divine consciousness. Unfortunately, there was still no way to enter. After all this time, he finally reached the earth god level, but in the end, he got himself a bull. He furrowed his brows, and the muscles on his face twitched slightly. For others, it was like a meat pie falling from the sky onto their heads, but for Zhang Xiu, it was like a cow falling from the sky onto his head. He couldn't even ascend to the fourth heavenly layer. He could feel that it would be a whole new world, a world where all kinds of possibilities existed. It might even be a world like the immortal Martial Continent. How beautiful, how perfect, a paradise for cultivation, but it was destroyed by this cow just like that. The world was so big, why did he have to meet this cow? Sensing Zhang Xiu's growing murderous aura, the bull retreated step by step. However, the secret room was not big to begin with. Although the bull was small, like a calf, it was still too big. It only took a few steps to reach the corner. Then, he raised his two front hooves. Although she couldn't speak, her eyes were extremely lively. There was panic, hesitation, and a trace of clarity. She was very human-like. Her intelligence should not be low. Do you know how to get back? The bull still shook its head. This gave Zhang Xiu a headache. He thought to himself, I can't possibly kill and eat it, right? After all, it's a cow that fell from the fourth level of heaven. Eating it would be a waste. This was the price he had to pay to enter the fourth level of heaven. Zhang Xiu would rather use his entire worth to exchange for the chance to enter the fourth level of heaven again. Zhang Xiu ran to the courtyard and set up a large array. Then, he ran back to the house and led the bull out. When the bull appeared outside the house, it saw a different world. Its pair of adorable bull eyes suddenly lit up, revealing a trace of joy. Then, like an old monk in meditation, it became adorable again. It was locked in the large array by Zhang Xiu. With a wave of Zhang Xiu's hand, a silver light sprinkled down. The large array was then concealed within. Now that no one could see the bull, it couldn't walk out of the large array. Ding dong! The doorbell rang outside the house. Cheng Lingran wouldn't take the initiative to come here. Since both parents had the key, it should be Su Su. He came to the door and opened it. He couldn't help but smile. Why is it you? When did you come back? At this moment, the sky was already filled with stars and the moon was hanging in the sky. Yi Bing put her hands behind her back and smiled sweetly. Why, am I not welcome? She tilted her head and looked inside, as if to see if there was anyone in Zhang Xiu's house. More importantly, she wanted to see if there was a woman. Of course you are welcome. Yi Bing lightly jumped into Zhang Xiu's house. She took off her shoes and changed into slippers. She looked around. Rich, really rich. Inhumane. Zhang Xiu said, "You know that I'm inhumane, yet you still dare to come? Aren't you afraid that my beast nature will act up?" Yi Bing's pretty face couldn't help but change. She looked at Zhang Xiu with vigilance and stopped in her tracks. Zhang Xiu was depressed. Was his character that bad? Yi Bing suddenly giggled. Her teeth were very white and her eyes were very moving. It had to be said that her smile was very attractive. "Look, you're a beast now. You don't even know if you can control your beast nature." Zhang Xiu said, "Then don't go back tonight. Let's see if I can control it." Yi Bing's beautiful eyes widened. "You're really shameless." As she said this, she walked inside. When a guest came, Zhang Xiu had to pour some tea. He never did this kind of thing. However, a beautiful woman, especially a demon god beauty, was an exception. This woman was like a mystery. Zhang Xiu entered the kitchen while Yi Bing went to the backyard. Zhang Xiu didn't think much of it. It was normal to visit a home. However, when he was making tea, he suddenly thought of something. Yi Bing wasn't an ordinary girl. She was a demon god. Would she see that cow? His eyes carried a cold light. He looked through the layers of walls and saw that Yi Bing was actually walking straight towards the cow. The cow's gaze also swept towards her. Yi Bing's gaze swept over the array. She seemed to be admiring the scenery in the yard. However, Zhang Xiu's eyes were very sharp. He could feel that Yi Bing's gaze met the cow's, and even paused. He guessed that she must have seen it. However, the problem was that it wasn't strange that Yi Bing didn't see the cow. However, the cow saw her but she pretended not to see it. This was a bit thought-provoking. Moreover, Yi Bing's sudden visit to the back garden seemed more like she was here for the cow than for him. "Drink tea." When Zhang Xiu finished making tea and brought it out, Yi Bing had already returned from the backyard. Her pair of beautiful eyes curiously looked at Zhang Xiu's house. At that time, this house seemed to be the best here. My father wanted to buy it, but he couldn't. In the end, it fell into your hands. All right, I haven't seen your father for many years. Is he doing well? Yi Bing took the teacup and said, "Same as always." Just as she was about to drink, she glanced at Zhang Xiu with her beautiful eyes and asked, "There shouldn't be anything in there that shouldn't be, right? I have to be careful of you." Zhang Xiu said, "You reminded me." Yi Bing said, "Are you that stupid? You always need others to remind you. When will you do what you promised me last time?" "What is it?" Yi Bing immediately picked up the teacup and said, "How could you forget such a big thing? Didn't you promise me last time that you would arrange for me to enter Jiangnan University?" Zhang Xiu just remembered this. "Hey, this is a small matter. I will ask someone to arrange it. But if you go to Hangzhou, we will have less time to see each other." Yi Bing said, "Who wants to see you? You are full of nonsense. You don't know how to be kind to me. I hate you when I see you." Zhang Xiu sat beside her and shamelessly put his big hands on her thighs. Just put it, but he actually rubbed it. Yi Bing immediately grabbed his mischievous hand. "Please put away your beast nature." Zhang Xiu stared at her eyes, which were like autumn water. Her heart suddenly beat violently. "I don't want to play with you. If you continue like this, I will really leave." "Leave? Didn't you say that you would watch me here at night and see if this beast would go berserk?" Yi Bing whispered, "Do you still need to watch me? That's for sure." Zhang Xiu looked at her blushing face and couldn't help but want to kiss her. Yi Bing nervously grasped his big hands. Time seemed to return to the phone booth in the thunderstorm after the college entrance examination. In the narrow space, they breathed in each other's scent and their youthful and restless hearts beat. "Let me ask you, why did you refuse to pick me up in high school?" Yi Bing's eyes became charming and affectionate. Zhang Xiu said, "You should have heard that I was engaged. Is that the reason?" Zhang Xiu nodded. Yi Bing didn't seem to believe it. "Do you still like her now?" "Of course not." Yi Bing lowered her head shyly. "Do you like me?" Chapter 451. I like it very much. Zhang Xiu put his fingers into her soft hair and made circles. Her hair was black and soft, as smooth as silk. Yi Bing reached out and pressed Zhang Xiu's chest, but seeing his impatient look, she couldn't help but smile. You men are all liars. You don't have good intentions. Zhang Xiu thought to himself, you women are the liars. Why did I appear in my youth? If I traveled through time and space to return to the past, I should have appeared in the place where I had been before, not in Yi Bing's house. Moreover, both of them were very clean. This was too strange. Moreover, Zhang Xiu couldn't remember what had happened before he came back here. Some part of his memory was missing. What was even stranger was that Yi Bing was just an ordinary student in her previous life. Later on, her fate was good. But in this life, she became a snake demon god. In this regard, Zhang Xiu had to be careful. In this world, Zhang Xiu was the one and only supreme earth god. However, if that cow could come to this world, the strong people from other worlds could naturally come too. Don't be like this. Yi Bing resisted like a little sheep. Stop harassing me. Otherwise, I'll go home. Yi Bing felt that if she continued like this, it would be very dangerous. She had already sounded the red alarm. Oh, but I think you like it when I harass you. You're so annoying. Of course, Yi Bing didn't resist in her heart. She even liked this feeling. However, rationality told her that she had to be reserved. The easier it was to get, the less she would cherish it. I really want to go home. She felt that Zhang Xiu's hand was getting more and more loose. She was panting and panting. She couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She had zero experience in this area, and Zhang Xiu was already a divorcee. She felt more and more at a loss. Thinking of the phone booth after the rain, Zhang Xiu didn't respond at all. She was so angry that she bit Zhang Xiu's shoulder. Ah! She couldn't help but scream. Yi Bing started crying and scolding Zhang Xiu. You're a bully. Zhang Xiu took off his clothes and pointed at the teeth marks on his shoulder. Girl, can't we be reasonable? Who's bullying who? Looking at his strong and masculine body, Yi Bing said, You're a bully. After saying that, she became even more nervous and didn't know what to do. This fellow is really a hooligan. Can't you just open your shoulders a little and see clearly? Why do you have to take off your clothes? Exhibitionist, do you think I don't know what you're thinking? She hurriedly stood up and ran outside. Zhang Xiu reached out to grab her, but Yi Bing dodged and made a funny face at her. It was so funny that it melted my spiritual cultivation heart. Then, she ran out of the door. You're a bad guy. Watching her leave, he couldn't help but exclaim. This girl's figure was really smooth, and the smell on her body was really good. Didn't they say that dragons and snakes were lascivious? Why was she so conservative? It was rare that she was able to restrain her beastly nature, but my beastly nature was unleashed. Seeing that she had only taken a sip of tea, there was a clear lipstick mark on the edge of the teacup. It seemed that she had dressed up carefully before coming here. He picked up the teacup and took a sip. Such delicious tea, and you're leaving without drinking it. It's a waste. Then, he got up and went to the backyard. He wanted to see the cow, but when he arrived, his eyes couldn't help but widen. He saw that half of the cow's hoof was outside the array. When it noticed Zhang Xiu's arrival, it tiptoed back. Zhang Xiu couldn't help but be stunned. This array had the power of confinement. Not to mention a cow, even the god of thunder would have to spend a lot of effort to get out after he finished setting it up. Its hoof could step in at will. Zhang Xiu asked, Can you get out of the array? The cow hurriedly shook its head, its eyes blank, as if it didn't do anything. Don't bully an honest person. Still not admitting it? It's fine if you say that you can't get out, but what's the meaning of wearing a big red flower on your head? In the flower bed behind the courtyard, there were big morning glory flowers. It happened to be spring now, the season of blooming. There were many flowers blooming, very bright, and indeed very beautiful. However, only the stem of the biggest flower was left. The flower had been plucked away, and this cow had a big red flower on its head. It really made people not know whether to laugh or cry. "What's with the flower on your head?" The cow's face suddenly changed. It raised its eyelids and looked up. It was speechless. It had exposed itself, but it didn't have any intention of taking the flower. "Everyone loves beauty, even if it's a cow." I understand. Zhang Xiu walked into the courtyard with great interest. Ordinary men are not so vain, nor are they so perverted. "You should be a female cow, right?" As he spoke, he lowered his head to look down, trying to confirm his judgment. The cow hurriedly squatted down and mooed angrily, protesting against Zhang Xiu's rude behavior. "Tell me, what's your background?" As soon as Zhang Xiu asked this question, the bull began to observe its surroundings. It was like an old monk in meditation. No one could affect it. "Then you can stay here." Zhang Xiu's forehead flashed, and his figure flickered in the air. Every time he slashed out, the saber light would flash and disappear. In the blink of an eye, he had already slashed out dozens of times, forming a saber net outside the array. Now, if the bull wanted to leave the array, it would have to endure the attack of the saber chi. Even if this cow could break his array, he didn't believe that it could withstand his knife. "Moo!" Zhang Xiu turned around. Since this cow from the fourth layer of heaven could fall here, did it have something to do with Earth? As for the legends of cows, he flipped through the books Su Su bought for him. One of them was called, "I Will Leave Hangu Pass in the West." Hangu Pass was an important checkpoint. There, the road was deep in the valley, hundreds of miles from east to west. The walls were steep, and the trees covered the sky. The guard pinched his fingers and calculated. "Did I calculate wrongly? There should be a saint entering today." When the sun set, there was a strange phenomenon in the sky. Purple chi came from the east, and an old man in plain robes rode a green cow leisurely. When the guard met the old man face to face, the old man recited a sacred scripture for becoming a saint, the Book of Taoism. When the book continued to recite, the next page was the Book of Taoism. However, the first word suddenly turned into light sand and disappeared. This was only the beginning. Then, the second word, the third word, the words disappeared one by one without a trace. This made Zhang Xiu very shocked. After a while, there was not a single word on this page. It was completely blank. When he flipped to the back, it was the same. After a while, the entire Book of Taoism was completely gone. Zhang Xiu had memorized a bit of it before. At least, he could remember the first few sentences. However, he couldn't remember what the first sentence was. This made him feel very strange. He immediately took out his phone and called Cheng Lingran. "Rang Ran. Big bad guy, why are you calling me? I almost died because of you today. Take a look. Do you have the Book of Taoism?" Zhang Xiu was not in the mood to flirt with Cheng Lingran. He felt that something big was about to happen. Cheng Lingran said, "No, I'm not a Taoist." "Then do you know how to recite it?" Cheng Lingran said, "I know a little about the first part. I don't know the latter part." Tao. Well, I can't remember. Wait, I'll use the computer to check. Now that the internet was developed, there was no way to find any information, especially a famous scripture like the Book of Taoism. However, when Cheng Lingran entered the Book of Taoism, the web search showed that there was no result. How can this be? Why can't it be found on the internet? Zhang Xiu's face couldn't help but change. As expected. What's wrong? Zhang Xiu said, "Nothing, I'm just curious." However, his brows were tightly knitted together. What kind of place was the fourth heaven? That place might have been before Laozi became a saint, and this bull might be Laozi's green bull. Did it come to this world and cause the loss of the Tao Te Ching? If so, did it mean that this world would return to before the appearance of the Book of Taoism? If so, this world would be even more mysterious. Chapter 452. Under the setting sun, Laozi rode the black ox out of Hangu Pass and passed down the Tao Te Ching. Now that the Tao Te Ching had disappeared from the world, and the black ox was still a calf, where was Laozi? Cheng Lingran changed the search software, but the results were the same. She even entered the online bookstore to buy the Tao Te Ching, but there were no related books. Everything about the Tao Te Ching had disappeared from the world. How could this be? Cheng Lingran was very surprised. The changes in the world could be understood as a natural reaction. Creatures evolved and had stronger abilities, but the Tao Te Ching had disappeared on the internet, in physical books, and even in people's memories. It didn't exist in this world at all. This was too hard to understand, too inconceivable. She thought of a terrible thing. The intelligence of strange beasts was constantly increasing. Would the loss of the Tao Te Ching be the beginning of the decline of human intelligence? Could it be that the Tao Te Ching is just the beginning, and human books will disappear one by one? Zhang Xiu said, "Are you worried that you will become an idiot?" Cheng Lingran said, "I'm not worried. If I become an idiot, I'll rely on you for the rest of my life. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to slack off. Do you know? I'm not in the mood to work all day today." Zhang Xiu said, "Why?" Cheng Lingran lowered her voice and said, "I miss you." Zhang Xiu couldn't help but feel a little proud in his heart. It was said that what conquered a woman was that. Sure enough, after the hard work during the day, he had already achieved some results. "Did you miss me, or did you miss me?" Cheng Lingran's cheeks heated up. She said softly, "Both." These words were really a powerful drug. Zhang Xiu's heart was burning. "I'll come find you." "I can't. I'm at home now." Zhang Xiu said, "Then you should go back to the company." Cheng Lingran was quite tempted. Just as she was about to agree, there was a knock on the door. Then Su Su pushed the door open and said, "Didn't you hear me? Come down and eat some fruit." Cheng Lingran said into the phone, "Oh, okay. Wait a minute. I'll go back to the company to deal with it." Su Su couldn't help but roll her eyes. "Sister, can you give yourself a holiday? Moreover, you can only take on some other people's real estate now. The profit is low, the risk is high, and it's tiring. You might as well change your line." Cheng Lingran hung up the phone and walked downstairs with her sister with a smile. "I won't do it again." Su Su glanced at her sister, who was smiling like a flower. She could feel that her sister's mood had improved. "So, that fellow's anger has subsided?" "Probably." Zhang Xiu hung up the phone. He was also in a good mood. Cheng Lingran's meaning before hanging up the phone was very clear. It seemed that his sister was also addicted to it. Of course, things wouldn't be as Cheng Lingran had predicted. The books of human beings would gradually disappear. The only thing that would disappear would be the Tao Te Ching. The reason was that Laozi's green ox had come to this world, and it was still a calf. However, the loss of the Tao Te Ching would definitely have a little impact on human beings. Laozi could become a sage with it, which showed that this book of enlightenment had a far-reaching impact. As for what consequences it would cause, Zhang Xiu didn't know. However, he could foresee the deterioration of human intelligence, especially for ordinary people who hadn't awakened. He closed the book. He planned to go to the Cheng clan to hang out with Cheng Lingran. However, before he left, he remembered that Yi Bing seemed to have her eyes on that ox. This ox was related to the loss of the Tao Te Ching. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiu waved his hand. After entering the Earth God realm, he could use many formations at will. He set up an invisible formation outside. If there were any abnormal fluctuations of spiritual power, Zhang Xiu would be able to find out whether Yi Bing had sneaked into his house when he wasn't around. After leaving the villa area, Zhang Xiu didn't want to ask someone to drive him. He went to the intersection and hailed a taxi to the Cheng clan building. From afar, he saw Cheng Lingran's car turn into the building. Zhang Xiu thought to himself, "She's in a hurry." If Cheng Lingran knew that Zhang Xiu thought of her this way, she wouldn't have come even if she was beaten to death. The next day, the sun shone in through the window, leaving a shadow on the snow-white sheets. Cheng Lingran slowly opened her eyes. She was still in Zhang Xiu's arms. Her eyelashes fluttered gently. Her skin was white with a tinge of red. She was so tender that it was almost dripping water. She gently bit her red lips. She had to endure this guy's harassment early in the morning, and he said it was all for the sake of the child. After a long time, Cheng Lingran was finally able to get out of bed. She casually put on Zhang Xiu's clothes and went to the bathroom. Zhang Xiu came to the window. His eyes couldn't help but widen. The river outside the window was filled with thick spiritual energy that couldn't be dispersed. It rippled with the wind. The surrounding high-rise buildings that were more than 10 stories tall were filled with spiritual energy. It seemed like the world had undergone a huge change overnight. Could it be? Zhang Xiu picked up the phone and called Wang Xintong. Before Zhang Xiu could say anything, Wang Xintong said, "Something big has happened. The earth that was originally divided into 2 halves by you has undergone a huge change. Another piece of land that is almost the same size as the earth has appeared out of thin air and is connected to the earth." "What?" Wang Xintong said, "It was taken from the satellite. I'll send the photo to your mobile phone immediately." Cheng Lingran came out of the bathroom at this time. She was wiping her wet hair with a dry towel. Seeing Zhang Xiu holding the mobile phone with a dignified expression, she walked over curiously and asked, "What's the matter?" As she approached, a mesmerizing fragrance blew over. Zhang Xiu liked this smell very much. He was even a little fascinated. Her warm eyes made Zhang Xiu's heart beat faster. The scene in front of him reminded him of the time they spent together in his previous life. A piece of land that appeared out of thin air is connected to the earth. Looking at the photo taken from space, Cheng Lingran's beautiful eyes couldn't help but widen. She said involuntarily, "How could this be?" Not only that, the 2 hemispheres that were split by the saber seemed to have undergone a more obvious change. Looking at the photo, Zhang Xiu felt a sense of déjà vu in his mind. This was not the arrival of a different world, because the other world had basically merged with this world except for the land of China. It would not cause such a huge change all of a sudden. It would take hundreds or thousands of years to evolve. The situation in front of him was obviously caused by an unexpected event. He guessed that this event was very likely to be related to the arrival of his calf. "What does this look like? It looks very familiar. Do you think it looks familiar?" Cheng Lingran also nodded. "What is this?" Cheng Lingran stretched out her slender finger and circled the empty space where the 3 continents were connected. "This part is empty. There should be another one here." "For?" Zhang Xiu's heart moved. He pointed to the human world that he had divided and said, "Nanzhan Department Continent." He pointed to the part that had turned into the demon world. "A Paragodania continent. The extra part might be the Dongxing Divine Continent." Cheng Lingran said in confusion, "Did you give them the names? They sound pretty good." Zhang Xiu shook his head and said, "I didn't give them the names. These are his names. Dongsheng Divine Continent, Nanzhan Department Continent, a Paragodania Continent, North Continent." Cheng Lingran said, "Is the extra place inhabited?" Zhang Xiu sighed. This was still unclear, but he said, "It might not be a human. It could be a god, or an immortal, or a spirit, or a demon." "Will we be in trouble?" Zhang Xiu shook his head, but he knew that a new world was unavoidable. It would be a primitive world, a world that didn't even have the Tao Te Ching. The sound of horns kept coming from outside. The people working in the CBD had started to go to work. No matter how the outside world changed, they still had to earn money to eat and pay off their loans. Cheng Lingran changed her clothes and fiddled with her hair in front of the mirror. "Hurry up and leave. It won't be good if someone sees you. There's a breakfast shop 100 meters to the right at the entrance of the Chang clan building. The food is not bad. You can try it." "Today, I'm going to participate in a bidding meeting. I've prepared the bidding document for a long time. Can I win?" Zhang Xiu said, "You should be able to." Cheng Lingran rolled her eyes at him and said, "If you don't win, don't think about getting on my bed at night. Go wherever you want to go. I'll definitely win." Cheng Lingran burst out laughing. She leaned in front of Zhang Xiu and intimately reached out to pinch his high nose. "I'm going to work." Chapter 453. Zhang Xiu followed Cheng Lingran's recommendation and went to the breakfast restaurant. It was a small shop that the couple ran themselves, but the food tasted really good. It was obvious that they put a lot of effort into making the food. After breakfast, Zhang Xiu went home. When he got home, there was a courier at the door. To be precise, it was a postman. This profession had almost disappeared. He told Zhang Xiu, "Are you Mr. Zhang Xiu? There's a letter for you here." Letter. The envelope was very old, and the words on it were written with a brush. The handwriting was very neat. It was obvious that Cheng Yan had used a brush to write. He had a good foundation in calligraphy. "Where did you send it from?" The postman shook his head. "We don't know. Our postal department rarely sends letters anymore. I hope you can tell your friend that we can use a more modern way of writing letters. Please sign your name here." After Zhang Xiu returned home with the letter, he first went to the backyard to take a look. Immediately, he frowned. There was an abnormal energy fluctuation in the big array outside the backyard, indicating that someone had broken in. Zhang Xiu couldn't think of anyone else except Yi Bing. However, what made him feel a little relieved was that the calf was still there, lying on the ground and sleeping. Yi Bing might have retreated after seeing the sword array, or it might have been for other reasons. As long as the calf was still there, it was fine. This calf was extremely important now. Tearing open the envelope, Zhang Xiu pulled out a piece of paper. He opened it and thought that he had seen wrongly. There was not a single word on it. It was blank. He used his eye technique, but still, there was not a single word. Zhang Xiu was puzzled. Why would someone send him a blank piece of paper? What was the meaning of this? With a thought, a ball of flame appeared. In an instant, the paper turned to ashes and drifted in the air. Trying to be mysterious? Zhang Xiu went upstairs to the balcony and looked at Yi Bing's house. Could it be this little girl's trick? But what did she mean by sending him a blank piece of paper? Perhaps Zhang Xiu was too confident in his eye technique, but he didn't notice that the drifting ashes emitted a few strands of black light sand in the air before they were blown away by the wind. At around 10 o'clock, Chang Lingsu came to Zhang Xiu's house. She was here to get the sword manual. Zhang Xiu did not have time to write one for her last night. "Wait here for a while. About 20 minutes. Okay." After Zhang Xiu left, Chang Lingsu looked around the house. Although it had changed hands once, it did not change much. Walking into the study, the bookshelves were full of books. These books were bought by her to please Zhang Xiu. At first, she was unwilling, but later, she was willing to buy a whole house full of books. She touched the books with her slender fingers. She was reluctant to part with them. She asked herself if she was reluctant to part with this magnificent villa or her noble status as Zhang Luoxia's wife. She felt that it was neither. She was even more reluctant to part with Zhang Xiu. This strong feeling surprised even herself. Maybe it was best to lose it. But no matter how reluctant she was, she would never wag her tail and beg Zhang Luoxia. Cheng Lingsu's arrogant heart would never accept it. She would never do it. She randomly picked a book and began to read. Su Su was a top student in school, but now she was all focused on cultivation. Her studies were basically abandoned. In addition, Zhang Xiu's books were all about miracles. She lost interest after a few flips. Well, why is there a letter? Su Su curiously picked it up. Except for important documents such as contracts and lawyers' letters, private letters were all sent through the internet. People still used paper letters in this day and age. But it was empty. She put it in the book. It's finished. Take it out. Writing a sword manual was just a piece of cake for Zhang Xiu. He finished it quickly. Cheng Lingsu reached out and took it. After thinking for a while, she said, "Thank you." Zhang Xiu did not say anything. He thought it would be good to send Cheng Lingsu away. "You then, I'll go." Zhang Xiu nodded. Cheng Lingsu left. Whenever Zhang Xiu showed that he wanted her to stay for a while, she would pretend to stay. But Zhang Xiu did not answer or speak. The awkward situation was tantamount to asking her to leave. Walking out of the house, Cheng Lingsu looked back. "Since you think I'm a greedy person, then I'll be a greedy person. Zhang Xiu, sooner or later, you will beg me. Let's see if I can help you then." Sitting in the car, Cheng Lingsu held back her tears. "Well, where's the envelope?" Zhang Xiu remembered that Cheng Lingsu took away the sword manual and a book. The envelope seemed to be in it. Zhang Xiu did not notice it, and neither did Cheng Lingsu. Originally, Zhang Xiu thought that this matter was over, but what he didn't expect was that the next morning, the postman delivered the same letter. The letter only had Zhang Xiu's name written on it, and the letter inside was still a blank piece of paper. This was strange. This kind of mysterious letter was either threatening or extorting. But in today's world, who dared to threaten or blackmail Mr. Zhang? Not to mention, there was not a single word on the paper. Zhang Xiu put it aside and ignored it. He waited for the next day. The next day, the same letter was not delivered. This made Zhang Xiu take out the letter again and study it. What's going on? He specifically asked the post office to investigate this matter. No one sent a letter. This letter seemed to have appeared out of thin air. He remembered that Zhang Xiu had burned the letter yesterday, so he sent another one. So, he took out the letter again and burned it. Sure enough, Zhang Xiu guessed right. The next day after he burned the letter, the other party sent him another letter. "Does he want me to write something?" Zhang Xiu wrote 3 words on it. "Who are you?" After he wrote it, he could not send it. Zhang Xiu burned the paper again. And then, there was no more. The next day, another letter was sent. This kind of situation basically proved that Zhang Xiu's approach was wrong. He suddenly remembered something. There was a legend in the immortal martial continent. There was a strong person who cultivated the great destiny technique out of the 3,000 great ways. This great way was ranked first in the general outline of great ways. If he communicated with people tens of millions of miles away, he also communicated with them through letters. And the so-called funeral oration was also a type of written language that could be used to communicate across realms. Although Zhang Xiu did not really believe that there would be an existence in this world that could grasp the great destiny technique, he still wanted to try his luck. He wrote his birth characters on the letter. But there was still no result. But on that very night, Zhang Xiu entered a dream. A person who would not dream even once in a few decades had entered a dream. In a daze, he heard someone calling out to him, "Zhang Xiu, Zhang Xiu." Zhang Xiu opened his eyes and discovered that he was above the clouds in the sky. In the distant horizon, an old man dressed in black stood there, his hair tied up in a bun. Zhang Xiu. His expression was calm and there was a hint of peace about him, making people feel comfortable looking at him. He was very similar to the immortal cultivators of the immortal martial continent, but he lacked the killing intent and was more carefree. "You are." Zhang Xiu was in a daze. He didn't know if he was awake or asleep. He smiled and said, "I am the divine official of the ancestral court, Shintarenjie." Divine official of the ancestral court? Zhang Xiu was shocked and immediately woke up. He thought of the letter and exclaimed in his heart. It was actually the great destiny technique. Through his fate, he avoided the realm power and entered his dream. "Why are you looking for me?" Shintarenjie pointed to the distant horizon where the endless palaces were and said, "That is the ancestral court, and the world you are in is the world notified by the ancestral court. You are the earth god of that world, and the ancestral court wants to confer you the title of divine official. Are you willing?" Zhang Xiu said, "Did you send that letter?" Shintarenjie shook his head and said, "Of course not. It was sent by the divine emperor of the ancestral court." Zhang Xiu was shocked. He could no longer guess what kind of existence the divine emperor of the ancestral court was. He was above the heavenly god realm and had even grasped the great destiny technique. Such a person was unparalleled even in the immortal martial continent. The gap between the mortals of Earth and Zhang Xiu was equivalent to the gap between Zhang Xiu and the divine emperor of the ancestral court, or even greater. Such a person was far inferior to Zhang Xiu's strongest friend in the immortal martial continent. "What if I'm not willing?" Shuntu Renjie said. "Then it's a pity. The ancestral court can only find someone else. However, fellow Taoist Zhang must listen to the divine official's instructions on Earth and not violate the laws of the ancestral court. Otherwise, even though the divine emperor is benevolent, he won't tolerate you." Chapter 454. The heavenly official he met in the Great Void Realm had suppressed Zhang Xiu before, so he didn't have a good impression of the ancestral court. Zhang Xiu knew that he wasn't a good person, but he lived an open and above-board life. He definitely wouldn't suppress emerging geniuses, and would even nurture opponents to motivate himself. Therefore, he looked down on that heavenly official, and even had a bad impression of the ancestral court. And the heavenly official in front of him was cultured and refined, without the slightest bit of arrogance. His tone was neither hard nor soft, and he gave people a feeling of elegance. This made Zhang Xiu have a whole new level of respect for him. He looked at Zhang Xiu and smiled. To be able to become the overlord of a world, you naturally have your own pride. But there's always someone better than you. Taoist Zhang, you're just starting out. If it was someone else, they might disdain Shuntu Renjie's words. However, Zhang Xiu had seen the world. The current him was very far away from the future him. Of course, he knew that he was just an insignificant ant in their eyes. Therefore, Shuntu Renjie's words were sincere. Moreover, Zhang Xiu needed cultivation resources. Since he was an official, he naturally had a salary. In addition, if he obtained a divine position, his cultivation would definitely increase. Shuntu Renjie said, "Taoist Zhang, do you still need to consider?" Zhang Xiu shook his head and said, "It's a good time." Shuntu Renjie seemed to be a little surprised. This was because the gods who grew up here would mostly refuse when they knew nothing about the ancestral court. When they understood, it would be too late for regrets. "You agree?" Zhang Xiu nodded. "It's not simple. Earth is so chaotic. No wonder you killed your way out, and in such a short time." Shuntu Renjie said, "In that case, I'll announce the divine emperor's decree." Zhang Xiu stood up straight, crossed his arms, and bowed his head to the back of his hands. "Pass down the decree of the ancestral court's divine emperor. Zhang Xiu of Earth will be the rank 7 divine lord of Blazing Sunday. Thank you, your majesty." Shuntu Renjie looked at Zhang Xiu, and the smile on his face widened. "Congratulations, Taoist Zhang. From now on, we will be officials of the same court, and we can interact more often." This Shuntu Renjie was very enthusiastic. Zhang Xiu said, "Of course. It's just that right now, this little god's cultivation is still shallow. Leaving Earth for a trip is quite exhausting. Going to fellow Taoist Shuntu's residence might take several years." Shuntu Renjie laughed and said, "Taoist Zhang, you still have to come to the ancestral court as soon as possible. A 7th-grade heavenly official can raise 300 grass-head gods, as well as an earth god-level cultivation technique and corresponding cultivation resources. This is greatly beneficial to you." Zhang Xiu was waiting for this sentence. "But I don't know how far the ancestral court is from Earth and how to get there." Shuntu Renjie said, "After Taoist Zhang comes out of the dream, you can feel the divine light entering your body. Then, you can feel the seat of the ancestral court and summon it yourself." "Thank you for your advice." Shuntu Renjie said, "Taoist Zhang, I feel like old friends with you at first sight, so I'll tell you a thing or two. It's said that the divine emperor likes you very much and said that you are a promising talent." Zhang Xiu said, "Likes me? Could the divine emperor be a girl?" This guy shamelessly thought, could it be that my fate in the future is to become this divine emperor's gigolo, just like the ancient empresses who kept a large number of men in captivity? Thinking about it, Zhang Xiu really panicked in his heart. This guy was still obsessed with cleanliness in this aspect. Taoist Zhang, in so many years, you are the only divine cultivator who has chosen the divine light of destiny when choosing the divine light. Back then, the divine emperor chose the divine light of destiny and cultivated the great art of destiny. Zhang Xiu suddenly understood. So that divine light was the divine light of destiny. Destiny had always been the most difficult to grasp. No wonder he didn't discover the use of the divine light for so many years. At the same time, he felt a little ashamed of his dirty thoughts. He actually looked down on the character of a supreme expert. So it was because Zhang Xiu cultivated the same technique as him back then. Maybe it was completely due to this layer of fate. I see. Thank you for your advice, Taoist Shuntu. Shuntu Renjie's face was full of smiles, but it was a little strange no matter how one looked at it. It made Zhang Xiu inexplicably have goosebumps all over his body. He couldn't help but suspect that this gay Shuntu Renjie had some unspeakable intentions towards him. Does the divine emperor have any taboos? After asking clearly, he couldn't offend him the next time they met. Taboos? To be honest, an insignificant official like you can't really come into contact with the divine emperor. However, I heard that the divine emperor likes flowers very much. Zhang Xiu said, flowers? No way, the divine emperor is really a woman. Shuntu Renjie said, yes. Then it wouldn't be easy. Zhang Xiu didn't know how to get along with girls. Moreover, if he liked flowers, he couldn't give flowers. Wasn't it normal for a guy to give flowers to a girl? How daring was it to flirt with the divine emperor? Moreover, his spiritual cultivation wasn't so cheap as to sell his body. Alright, if there's nothing else, Taoist Zhang can go back. Come to the ancestral court as soon as possible and collect your resources. That can greatly increase the speed of your cultivation. Okay. Zhang Xiu slowly woke up from his dream. He sensed the existence of the ancestral court in his heart. It's so far away. With my current speed, it'll take at least half a year, and that's under the condition that everything goes smoothly. Little did he know that Shuntu Renjie's estimation of his speed was 2 years, which was 1.5 years faster than expected. Zhang Xiu had Tianqing School's top-notch movement technique. His speed was slow to begin with, so he relied on his movement technique to make do. At the same time, Zhang Xiu felt that his divine Tao light of destiny had risen sharply. This enhancement was enough to trigger a qualitative change. Zhang Xiu had awakened a small threshold of the small destiny technique. This made Zhang Xiu incomparably happy. In the immortal martial continent, the great destiny technique was ranked first among the 3,000 Tao techniques. It was only said that someone had cultivated it, but no one had truly seen it. Even those who cultivated related Tao techniques had never seen it. However, he had become the first person. Moreover, this Tao technique had boundless potential. After cultivating it, its power would be even more astonishing. Of course, the people who cultivated such a heaven-defying Tao technique were all unprecedented supergeniuses. Luck, strength, and opportunity were all indispensable. Looks like I have to go to the ancestral court as soon as possible and get my resources back. Otherwise, I'll be a heavenly official for nothing. He got up from the bed and walked to the window to look at the courtyard outside. The calf was also lying on the ground and snoring. Zhang Xiu was deep in thought. These days, the world had changed greatly. Awakened people in China kept appearing like bamboo shoots after a rain. However, because there were so many of them, the appearance of divine discoverers was not so surprising. In the past, if a divine discoverer appeared in a family, the entire family would fly. But now, the changes seemed to be small. If a divine discoverer had poor aptitude, it would be useless. However, the extra land had already been explored by people here. That place was different from Earth. It was all natural. Planes could fly over, cars could not drive over, and satellites could not detect it. They could only rely on their own 2 feet to walk over. The specific news had not been sent back yet. Jiang Xiu was also full of curiosity about that place. If it were not for the letter and the calf at home, he might not be able to bear to go there. I should bring this calf with me. I rode a young man out of Hangu Pass. Today, I, Jiang Xiu, rode a green calf to the east of China. The calf shivered inexplicably in its sleep. It shrunk its body and swept its tail around. This cow was quite a clean cow, so it kept the surrounding grass neat and tidy. At this time, Cheng Lingsu was practicing Jiang Xiu's saber technique in the practice room at home. Because she had been practicing for a long time, she specially set up a place at home. She spent most of her time there. In her heart, she had a desire to become stronger than Jiang Xiu. However, after she received the saber technique, her practice was not smooth. The saber was not suitable for women, let alone such a profound saber technique. It was difficult for her to understand at her level. Moreover, there were many words used in cultivation. Cheng Lingsu did not understand what they meant. Even so, her martial arts cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds in just a few days. She had entered the demigod realm and was making great strides towards the immortal realm. However, she knew in her heart that if she wanted to truly catch up to Jiang Xiu, she had to fully understand this saber technique. Then, she would inevitably have to ask Jiang Xiu for advice. Will he still be willing to see me? Cheng Lingsu thought to herself. I don't care. He promised to teach me the saber technique. How can it be counted if I don't learn it? Just like just now, Jiang Xiu inexplicably felt that this moment in front of him had happened before. Then, he saw Cheng Lingsu appear in his house and ask him some questions about the saber technique. He couldn't help but frown. Even though he was only at the threshold of the lesser fate technique and couldn't sense any earth-shattering events, he could still sense some small things, especially small things related to himself. This matter will affect me? Whatever. Jiang Xiu didn't want to be entangled with Cheng Lingsu anymore. He patted the calf's butt and said, Let's go. I'll take you out to the Dongshang Divine Continent. Your destined one might be there. With the lesser fate technique, Jiang Xiu was quite confident that he could find Laozi. In addition, he could cultivate the lesser fate technique, which was ranked first among the 3,000 Dao arts. Once he cultivated it, it would be modest to say that he was invincible. Let's go. The calf didn't refuse. After Jiang Xiu dispersed the formation, it followed Jiang Xiu into the house. The doorbell rang. When he opened the door, Jiang Xiu saw Cheng Lingsu standing outside. She looked at Jiang Xiu nervously and said, Sorry to disturb you again. Jiang Xiu was delighted. It seemed that he had touched the threshold of the lesser fate technique. Everything that was happening now matched the image in his mind. He said, Are you here to ask for guidance? Cheng Lingsu nodded. There are some things that I don't understand. Can you help me explain? Moo, moo. The calf, which was originally behind Jiang Xiu, suddenly cried out. It actually pushed Jiang Xiu to the side so that it could face Cheng Lingsu. Spiritual cultivation cursed in his heart. F*CKU. The calf was so excited when it saw Cheng Lingsu. It was definitely like an animal seeing the school bell. At this moment, Jiang Xiu seriously doubted whether this calf was female. Kakik, Jiang Xiu, what an interesting calf. It even put such a beautiful flower on its head. Cheng Lingsu laughed. Her eyes sparkled, her pretty face was like a flower, and her teeth were snow white. It was truly a breathtaking sight. Moo moo. The calf acted cute. Cheng Lingsu stretched out her slender hand and stroked the calf's face. The calf closed its eyes like a dog and had a look of enjoyment. Jiang Xiu had to admit that Cheng Lingsu's appearance was truly beautiful. Even a calf's heart was moved. Moreover, it was a calf whose gender was unclear. Jiang Xiu said unhappily, Didn't you want to ask about the saber technique? Hurry up, I still have to go out. Oh. Cheng Lingsu bluntly walked in and greeted the calf. Then she went to the sofa in the living room and sat down. She took out a notebook from her bag. Su was still very careful. She did not directly bring the saber technique with her. Instead, she copied the parts that she did not understand from the notebook. The calf actually abandoned its temporary master, Jiang Xiu, and sat beside Chang Lingsu. It was as if Chang Lingsu was its master. It was a calf that had no position at all. Jiang Xiu was even more unhappy. "Do you want me to tell you this?" "Ah." Chang Lingsu saw that the coffee table was empty. Since Jiang Xiu wanted to explain, he would definitely be thirsty. She immediately stood up. She was very familiar with this place and went into the kitchen. Jiang Xiu was about to teach the calf a lesson. He wanted to wake her up and not let her beauty go to her head. However, the calf climbed up and walked to the table. It lifted one of its hooves and grabbed the pen on the table. It even sat on the chair with its buttocks. The next scene was shocking. It actually knew how to write. The calf would never forget that grand and unprecedented day. The sky was filled with gods and Buddhas, and when that person appeared, the world was filled with excited hymns. The person wore a tall crown and was dressed in luxurious clothes. It was as if he had walked out from the sun. The light was dazzling. The sky was filled with clouds. There was no place that was not breathtaking. It was said that the person was very fond of flowers. Since then, the calf began to be lost and could not extricate itself. Jiang Xiu curiously came to the table. The calf wrote on it, "What is your relationship with her?" Jiang Xiu was depressed. He had been in contact with the calf for so many days. He even gave the calf flowers for the first time. He did not even say a word to the calf. Now, because of a woman, the calf actually revealed that it knew how to write. Sure enough, whether it was humans or animals, they were all visual animals. Jiang Xiu was in the mood to anger the calf. He said, "Ex-wife." With a loud bang, the calf fell from the chair. It widened its eyes and looked at Jiang Xiu in shock. Its expression was as shocked as it could be. Jiang Xiu's face was cold, but he was very proud in his heart. He understood how the calf felt. It had met a girl it loved and was full of expectations for a beautiful marriage. Suddenly, it was told that she was his ex-wife. All its beautiful dreams were shattered. Fortunately, Jiang Xiu did not give it a double blow. If he said that it was the child's mother, it would definitely collapse. "What's wrong?" Chang Lingsu heard the noise and ran out. She saw the calf fall to the ground. "Jiang Xiu, what did you do to it? Since you raised it as a pet, you should treat it well. Why did you bully it?" When the calf heard this, it crawled over to Chang Lingsu and even crawled beside her feet like a child who had been wronged. Jiang Xiu was dumbfounded. It couldn't sit properly on the stool and fell down. "That's not right. It's a calf. How could you let it sit on the chair?" "I'm not afraid." Jiang Xiu was depressed. If this calf was not his green calf, Jiang Xiu would have killed it to make beef soup. He turned around and sat down on the sofa. "Are you still going to ask? If not, you can leave." Chang Lingsu just remembered that she had a favor to ask. Although she was on the side of justice, she still had to be humble in front of this big devil. "I'll ask. Of course I'll ask. You're not good. How did you make your master angry?" The calf was confused. Why was this world so strange? Chapter 456. The calf had a dumbfounded look on its face. It kept staring at Chang Lingsu, its gaze softening. When it saw Chang Lingsu coming out of the kitchen with a cup of tea, the calf angrily mooed at Jiang Xiu, as though it was protesting against Jiang Xiu for letting Chang Lingsu do the work of a servant. However, it was ignored by both Jiang Xiu and Chang Lingsu. In the end, the calf prostrated itself on the ground, feeling dejected. Jiang Xiu had a contemplative look on his face. This calf was not normal. From its various actions, it seemed that it knew Chang Lingsu. But that didn't make sense. How could it know Chang Lingsu? A human and a calf had no interactions at all. Originally, it was a calf from thousands of years ago. Now, it had turned back into a calf. The sacred text of Taoism had also disappeared. And now, Zhang Xiu, who should be a human from thousands of years ago, had appeared here. This place gave Zhang Xiu a feeling of time rewinding. However, it wasn't the whole of time, but individual events. It was hard to say if Cheng Lingsu would know this calf many years later. As he thought of this, he couldn't help but glance at Cheng Lingsu a few more times. The latter also noticed that Zhang Xiu was secretly looking at her. Her beautiful face flushed red, and she felt somewhat happy in her heart. Just like when she was in school, she earnestly asked all kinds of questions and listened to Zhang Xiu's explanation. Zhang Xiu explained in a simple way. Many times, a word could only be understood and not explained clearly. One could only rely on oneself to comprehend it. Other than that, the cultivation atmosphere in the surroundings. After exchanging blows with many people, one could also understand the principles behind it. But one couldn't help but admit that Cheng Lingsu's talent was indeed outstanding. With just a few pointers from Zhang Xiu, she was able to comprehend it. If it was only comprehension, then among all the people Zhang Xiu knew, including those big shots from the immortal martial continent, Cheng Lingsu could be ranked at the top. This girl's future achievements wouldn't be low. The calf was deep in thought. It couldn't get rid of that goddess who loved flowers out of its mind. Could it be that this strange temporary master had taught it a set of saber techniques? It was also very curious what saber technique it was. But not long after, it felt dizzy and drowsy. Unknowingly, it fell asleep. The sun set. Zhang Xiu was still explaining the saber techniques to Cheng Lingsu. Zhang Xiu wasn't fond of teaching others, but he had an obsession with cultivation. When he spoke of cultivation, he would become excited and completely forgot that the person was someone he hated. Zhang Xiu taught seriously, but Cheng Lingsu didn't pay as much attention to her learning. Her slender fingers gently twirled the water brush as her beautiful eyes occasionally glanced at Zhang Xiu's marble-like face. Actually, she had long understood what Zhang Xiu was saying. But she couldn't help but ask a few more times because she wanted to see how he would explain it to her. The afterglow of the setting sun cascaded in through the window, casting a shadow on his face. However, his gaze was so focused. Cheng Lingsu sadly lowered her head. Back then in the academy, if only she could be together with him, going to school and coming back from school, discussing their studies. How good would that be? It was just like when they were young. Sadly, what was missed. Time couldn't go back. Are you clear now? Cheng Lingsu nodded and said, So it's already this late. When Cheng Lingsu arrived, it was still early in the morning, but now the sun was about to set. As a result, he hadn't eaten anything all day, so he was a bit hungry. Cheng Lingsu said, I've delayed you for a day. How about I treat you to a meal as a thank you? Zhang Xiu said, No need. You don't like me that much? Cheng Lingsu couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. She understood that Zhang Xiu's guidance to her wasn't to change his feelings for her, but to get rid of her faster. Zhang Xiu shook his head and said, I've already completely taught you the saber techniques. From now on, we're completely even. You don't have to look at me, and I don't have to look at you. Let's go our separate ways. Cheng Lingsu pursed her red lips, feeling very wronged. Others don't know, but I know very well that you were the one who planned the divorce. Because of you, Auntie still has prejudice against me. In the past, Auntie treated me better than my mother, but now, she looks at me like she's looking at an enemy. Why do I have to endure such grievances? Why don't I explain? Because I know you hate me. That's because I really only cared about myself in the past, so I'm willing to take the blame for you. However, this is unfair to me. I shouldn't have such a failed marriage for no reason. It doesn't matter if you're a man, but I'm a woman. Zhang Xiu was slightly moved. If he ignored the things that happened in his previous life, and only looked at it from this life, everything he did was indeed unfair to Cheng Lingsu. He said, Then what else do you want? He had already given her the saber techniques. In terms of money, the Cheng family didn't lack money at all. It was just the two sisters sitting on a net worth of billions. They simply couldn't spend it all. Chang Lingsu said, "You can't give me what I want." Zhang Xiu thought highly of himself. He didn't think that there was anything in this world that he couldn't give. He was only worried that Chang Lingsu would be greedy and entangle with him endlessly, which would affect his already fragile relationship with Chang Lingran. "Humph, just say it. I'll definitely do it for you." Chang Lingsu shook her head. "I want none of this to happen. I didn't marry you, and I didn't get divorced. Can you make all of this disappear? Can you?" Chang Lingsu's voice was a little hoarse when she said the last sentence. The calf was startled and woke up. However, when he saw Chang Lingsu's eyes filled with tears and she was very emotional, he couldn't help but be stunned again. At this time, Zhang Xiu felt that Chang Lingsu was hurt. "Can you?" Zhang Xiu really couldn't do anything about this matter. "Okay, let's eat. Where are we going to eat?" Chang Lingsu stared at Zhang Xiu with tears in her eyes. She threw the notebook in her hand at him and scolded, "You bastard!" Then she turned around and ran to the door bitterly. She wasn't begging Zhang Xiu, and she didn't want his pity. Zhang Xiu opened his mouth, but he still didn't say anything. The calf got up from the ground and chased after her. When Su Su put on her shoes and ran out, the calf also followed her without hesitation and abandoned Zhang Xiu in a minute. Damn it! Now spiritual cultivation couldn't stay calm no matter how cold he was. This was his green calf. How could he run away with others? He could only chase after them. When he reached the door, he saw Chang Lingsu was also very confused by the calf. "Don't follow me. I'm not your master." The calf mooed twice, but it didn't stop. It followed Chang Lingsu all the way to the parking lot. When it saw Chang Lingsu get in the car, it was very anxious. It was too big to get in. Therefore, it ran to the front of the car and then fell to the ground, not letting Chang Lingsu drive the car out. Beep. Chang Lingsu, who was already emotional, pressed the horn hard. "The master is annoying. The calf is as annoying as the master. Are you going to go away or not? If you don't go away, I'll run over you." The calf, moo moo. It mooed twice, but it just lay on the ground and didn't move at all. It seemed that it had made up its mind to follow Su Su even if it died. This scene made Zhang Xiu frown. A very absurd thought flashed through his mind. This calf wanted to follow Chang Lingsu so much. Was Chang Lingsu the father? But the gender didn't match. The father was a man. Chang Lingsu angrily rushed out of the car and said to Zhang Xiu, "Ask your calf to get out of the way." Zhang Xiu said, "Do you know how to recite the Tao Te Ching?" "What?" Su Su suspected that her ears were damaged. She had just quarreled, and now she hadn't calmed down. How could she recite the Tao Te Ching? I said, "Do you know how to recite the Tao Te Ching?" As long as you can recite one sentence. In this world, there should only be one person who knew how to recite the Tao Te Ching, and that person was the future father. "If you recite it, I'll move the calf away." Boring. Su Su thought for a while and opened her mouth as if she wanted to recite it, but the expression on her tear-stained face froze. Dao what? I used to recite it. Didn't the school teach it when we were in school? I can't remember. Zhang Xiu breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was completely his wild guess. However, why did this calf insist on sticking to Chang Lingsu? Was it because she was pretty? Wasn't this a little too unrestrained? Wasn't this a little too crazy? Was a calf so passionate about pursuing the opposite sex? Ask the calf to move away. I can't do anything. This calf didn't listen to its orders. Zhang Xiu, don't bully people. What do you mean by not letting me go? I really can't do anything. It doesn't listen to me. Zhang Xiu still went up to try and said, "Get out of the way. She's going to drive." The calf ignored him. "I feel that it may have taken a fancy to you. Chang Lingsu's face turned red. Zhang Xiu, you hate me. I have nothing to say. You don't have to use a calf to humiliate me. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.